All right, hello everybody, and welcome to a last-minute live stream episode of the show Doomed with Matt Binder. I am your host, Matt Binder, and joining me is Matt Orfalea. You might recognize him from his own YouTube channel, Matt, or Twitter at Orf. He put together a video on the Rittenhouse trial and had a number of tweets excuse me, on the Rittenhouse Kenosha event, I should say. That was before the trial. And then he's had a number of tweets since. His work has been promoted by Jimmy Dore and Glenn Greenwald. If you watch this show earlier this week on my Twitch channel, I went through his appearance on the Jimmy Dore show and basically broke down my disagreements and where I think Jimmy and Matt failed. But with all that said, Matt, thank you for joining me today. And as I
Sure.
say to everybody who accepts an invitation, which isn't like a friendly guest invite to talk about, some piece they wrote, this
Yeah.
is going to be like a debate, and we're going to disagree. And I respect the fact that you engage. Not everybody does that, and I think that's truly pretty low when people don't do that, defend what they've put out there in the world. And when someone does do that, they move up in my book, to be quite fair. Recently, I've had debates with the Convo Couch people, Michael Tracy, and you are the latest. So I know, really, thank you for joining me tonight.
Cool. Well, thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm happy to have a dialogue, and I didn't plan for a debate. Maybe I should have. I just finished watching the full video, so yeah, maybe I should have. But I'm totally open to criticism and happy to have a discussion.
All right, cool. So everyone should know, if you haven't already, that the Kyle Rittenhouse trial concluded today, and the jury found him not guilty on all counts. So he's free to go home and live his life, which, I'm sure he'll never have to work a day in his life again. The right wing is, heralding him as a great right wing hero. But I'm happy, though, that we're actually having this discussion after the trial, because I feel like if we had it before that, or obviously during the trial, this could have delved into a debate that's sort of pointless in my view about the trial. And to me, I mean, that's not what this is about. Our coverage has been your video, and my critique of your video has been on the media's coverage of Rittenhouse. And, obviously the jury decided what they decided, and people are free to take that as they will and be upset with that or be happy about that. In my view, it is what it is. What could you do? I was ready for this, as everyone who watched my coverage on this knows. This seemed to be, even in my opinion, where I don't think, he acted in self-defense. Regardless, it seemed like they could not prove that to the jury, or did not do a good job proving that to the jury. But always remember, it's not guilty, not innocent. They don't prove someone innocent. They just prove them that they can't prove that they're guilty. They're not guilty. All right, so let's go through this video. We are watching. I just lost him. How'd that happen?
Hello.
Hello?
To be clear, that you accidentally hung up on
Did
me.
I?
Right?
It honestly
Yeah,
just disappeared.
Yeah, said Matt Binder ended the.
Oh, well, I must have
call.
accidentally hit something on the keyboard. My bad. Wait, hold on. I see some people in the chat saying that they hear weird sounds on the stream. Is the sound good for everybody? Is there any extra sound that anybody's hearing?
How about on my end? How does it sound?
Because
who's got the fucked up feed?
Right, or it could be their computer. It could be their
That's
stream.
true. That's true.
Okay, here someone says. Okay, cool. All right, so I guess it was just that one person stream. Perfect.
Can you repeat what you said at the end there? Something about what is guilty or innocent?
Right. I just want everyone to remember here that in the court of law, that the jury does not decide guilty or innocent. They decide between guilty and not guilty. Someone that you cannot deem someone is innocent by the like the law doesn't deem that someone's innocent. They're just not proven to be guilty. They're not guilty.
Well, but by being found not guilty for this, a number of charges, you are found innocent of those charges.
No, explicitly, the
No?
law is very careful in making sure that that's why they don't use innocent. That's why the choices are not guilty and
Not
innocent.
guilty. No, well, not guilty of the charges, innocent of the charges, found not guilty. So basically you're just leaving out there. So you think the
Well,
events
the justice
that were discussed during the trial did not happen as discussed?
Well, the justice system did its job, and that is basically the prosecutor had to prove beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yeah.
And he couldn't do that. And just because you don't prove beyond a reasonable doubt, that doesn't make that person innocent. That just makes them not guilty.
I'm just curious. So I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah.
What do you think he is? So you're saying, so maybe if he's not innocent, then what are you saying he's guilty of?
Well,
or might be guilty.
I'm not a juror. Like basically the court the court system works where the prosecutor has to convince a jury of 12 people that the defendant is guilty. And if he or she fails to do that, then they are found not guilty by those jurors. If it was a completely different makeup on the jury, it's very possible that 12 completely different people could have heard those same facts and found him guilty. Or if there was another case, a different prosecutor who went out about it in a different manner, maybe those same 12 jurors, or again, another 12 jurors could have found him guilty. The court system is the way our justice system works. It's very purposeful that they are found not guilty because it's not proven beyond a reasonable doubt. They don't use the word innocent very, very purposefully.
I guess my curiosity was like how you felt about the case, and if I put my hand up like this, I guess I'm waving at you, but obviously I got some focus issues over here.
Let's put it this way: someone in the chat gave me a great example to give them credit. Do you think that O.J. Simpson is guilty of killing 2 people?
Sure seems like that. So I mean, I agree with you 100% that that's how the system works. That of course, that just because it is a flawed system. Like a jury can obviously come to a wrong conclusion. But what I was wondering is, I guess 2 things now. I guess I was wondering how you would rule if you were a juror, and I understand if you want to pass because it's super controversial. Like you could get fucked either way.
No, I'm fine with that.
Give me
both questions. Yeah.
2, if the acknowledging that our legal system is flawed, do you think? I mean, is there a better way to do things?
I mean, let me take the second one. I'm not a law expert. I mean, it's quite obvious that, like, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an expert in the justice system. What I'm telling you, honestly, and it's fine that people don't realize this. A lot of people actually don't realize that not guilty does not equal innocent. This is not, so don't. This is but it's 100% true that that's the case. I don't know what needs to be changed, but it's quite obvious that something does. Regardless of, all right, let's say that you look at this case and you think that Kyle Rittenhouse did use self-defense, so he should be found not guilty. There are many, many cases, and let me take one. For example, I don't have it right in front of me, but it's one I always think of. Let me get her exact name. It's a shooting in Florida. Give me 1 second. I think her name was Alexander. Yes, Marissa Alexander was being abused by her former husband. And he was like breaking through doors and physically assaulting her. And so she took a gun and she was about to shoot him, but decided at the last minute to shoot in the air as a warning shot because, some people don't feel comfortable with killing someone, even if their life is in danger. There's a morality thing there, in my opinion. Some people, I honestly don't think I could take a life. It would be really hard for me to do that, even if someone was attacking me. I don't know if I could live with myself. And clearly she had that decision. She made that decision as well. And a jury decided that even though she claimed that she did that to stop the attack, which it did stop the attack, her stand your ground defense couldn't be true, because if she really was scared for her life, she would have shot him. And the jury found that she deserved 20 years in prison for that. She ended up, through appeals process, getting out much earlier, but she spent more time in prison, years more in prison, than Kyle Rittenhouse did. Kyle Rittenhouse got 0.
Well, yeah. I mean, no, he was in prison. He was in jail until he got released on bail.
Right. Well, she went to prison as a result of the trial.
Yeah.
I don't know when he got out on bail. I'm assuming he got out on bail fairly quickly. I mean, there's those photos of him hanging out with the Proud Boys at a bar. I mean, he wasn't in jail for long. Maybe I'm not going to guess.
Yeah, I
don't
certainly
got
either,
out.
But I'm just saying.
I mean, clearly the system is flawed. If someone can shoot and kill people, and that's fine, but then someone else decides that they don't want to do that, but still use a firearm to disengage from a situation, but because they didn't kill, that means their life really wasn't in danger. Like, you don't think that, like that I mean, I got to think that you think that's bizarre.
Obviously it sounds like, this case with this woman, obviously she was screwed, and obviously the justice system failed her.
Right.
I don't know if it's fair to say that, and it sounds like what you're saying is like, so, it failed her, and so it's automatically unfair for Rittenhouse to get off and be found.
I mean, that's not an equal system to me. Like, if Kyle Rittenhouse gets off for this, it seems like it would have been equal for her to get off for that. I mean, also, not even to use something that
analogous. I mean,
I'm
not I mean, but again, like, it's like, what's the better? I mean, how do you improve this system? I mean, the flaw is in people. We're flawed, and we're going to make the wrong decision sometimes.
Can you guess the woman's race in that case, by the way?
Well, if you frame it like that, yeah, I'll say she's black.
Yeah, I mean, it's just not possible to not realize that, and like, the justice system is clearly flawed in that way, and you have in this case 3 white people who were, and I could say victims, but I'm gonna be as neutral here as possible. 3 white people who were shot. 2 of them died. One of them was severely injured, attending what was a protest movement for the Black Lives Matter movement that spread over the summer. There was a black man in Kenosha who was shot in the back by police, and that's what that protest was about. And
we could talk about Jacob Blake too, if you like, because that is, I mean, that's so connected, right?
It is, and that's why I think you can as well admit that, like, that's why this is a racial justice case. Like, Jacob Black is completely connected. Like, you said it yourself.
Or Jacob Blake.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Jacob Blake. I'm sorry. Like, you said it yourself. Like, it's impossible
it's connected
to not include the two together.
Well, I think it is absolutely right to not include the two in the trial of Kyle Rittenhouse for those shootings. But as far as to understand the story of how that story came about, does go back to Jacob Blake. I mean, that's why people were protesting and rioting, and why you had armed citizens, people call militia types. Maybe some of them were militia types, just showing up with fucking machine guns. Right. Well, actually, people critique, like, I'm not a gun guy, so whatever. AR-15s,
I mean, it's clear.
Rifles.
It's clear to me that there is a huge difference, though, between, like, carrying a rifle like that, which to me, clearly, the point of carrying a weapon like that is to show it. Like, it's to show it off. Like, it is to.
That's a huge part of it. That's a huge part of it. Sure.
Right.
But also, it is for people have guns around, Yes, to show off, I think, but also defense for defense.
Well, you could
I
bring
mean,
a
obviously, that's the whole logic.
you can bring a handgun for that. Much easier to carry, much more mobile in terms of using it in a close-handed situation. I mean, if you're going to a protest and you bring to me, let me be straight up here. I think there is absolutely zero place for a gun, period, a firearm, period, at a protest. It is probably the most chaotic environment possible. You don't hear about people getting shot and killed by other protesters somewhere like New York City, where people aren't allowed to carry, and everyone is much safer in New York City when they protest. There's no Kyle Rittenhouses walking around in New York, I can tell you that.
Well, but another thing is part of that is the story is that this happened in a pretty damn small town of Kenosha,
Where
and
it's
so
okay
they don't
to-
have the
where it's
police department like New York City to try to to really crack down on a giant protest and what turned into a very large riot. And so when that happened, things escalate. So I don't know if it's fair to blame this just on the AR-15s. And I'm not a fan of guns. I'm not a fan of AR-15s, but yeah, I'll just say that I think there's many factors beyond the AR-15 that led to these tragic events.
Well, I mean, we'll look at the video and we'll discuss that then. I think we should leave that there because then we could get more into it as we actually see it and see what's going on in the video. But to be clear, I think everyone who brought a firearm, Rittenhouse, the individual who is in the video who fired those shots in the air, who we'll get to, and what was his name again?
Zeminski, Joshua Zeminski.
Even Gage Grosskreutz. All of them and anyone else who brought a firearm, all those other armed militia types.
There were a lot. There were dozens of people. Armed to the teeth.
There would be 0 deaths, period, if nobody brought any firearm. There is no place for a firearm in a chaotic environment like that. I'm sorry.
Well, we don't know if there would be 0. I mean, we can certainly conclude sure, there's a fine chance that nobody would have gotten killed. But, when tensions are so high
but tensions were high in the days before that and the days following that, and no one died.
That's true. But people, one store owner, you tell me if you saw this or not, but one store owner got bludgeoned in the head with a fire extinguisher. And he's an old man. He's like 50 or 60. And he's got all bloodied up. And so, luckily he did not die, but
that's
very violent.
That's
got
the thing,
very
though.
violent.
I'm not saying no one would have got hurt, but nobody died other than at this one night where Kyle Rittenhouse decided to fire his gun.
Well, he didn't just decide to fire his gun, right? I just try to. I am not a defender of Kyle Rittenhouse. I don't like his politics. I don't like guns. But one reason that I've been getting a lot of hate on Twitter and probably the reason you take a lot of issues, or I don't know, you definitely in your video of my appearance on Jimmy Dore, you definitely are throwing a lot of sticks and stones.
Well, we'll talk about that for
fine.
Sure.
Yeah. Fuck, I forgot what I was. Wow, I had a good point.
It's okay. It's all good.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I do want to agree that, of course, more guns does lead to more gun deaths, and that's. In America, we've got more guns per capita, more guns than people. That's obviously why we have more gun fatalities than any other country. So, it's obviously fair to say guns, I think overall don't make us safer in terms of reduced fatalities from gun deaths. Duh. But I just wanted to throw out there that, who the fuck knows what would happen. These protests had gotten pretty bad. They were worse the night before, though, than on the night of Kyle Rittenhouse. But who knows what it could have escalated to.
But that sort of plays in my favor. If you say that it was worse the night before, the 2 people died and 3 people were shot, then and no one died on the night where it was worse.
Well, what do you mean? What do you mean you're a favor? What are you arguing that I'm not arguing?
Well, I mean, I guess maybe right here, if you say that, you know, the gun shouldn't have been involved, period, then maybe we are on the same page here. You know, is that what you're saying? Because then we agree on this.
I agree that, I mean, in general, yeah, having guns present, leads to more gun deaths. It doesn't. I mean, I'm pretty sure I saw a study that, like, if you have a gun in the home, overall, you're more likely, you're less safe. But as far as I don't have the studies in front of me.
All right, no, that's cool.
But
no, that's
all I'm saying is, like, yes, you put a bunch of guns in any situation, you're gonna there's a much better chance of someone getting shot and killed. Right. Duh. I mean,
so let's get into the video. Let's play your video. Okay. I'm pretty much gonna make the same points I made in my stream. So we're not missing anything there, and then we'll get into any of your follow-up tweets. Now, just to make sure everyone knows, and I made sure to mention this in my live stream, again, being very fair. This video.
I would disagree that you were fair in your live stream. All right.
This video, but I did say this video is from before the trial started, and some information did come out during the trial that you previously did not know when you made this video.
Yeah, just like your misinfo article,
which is completely. I've looked through my article. It's completely. It stands the test of time. There's nothing off in that.
No,
article.
there is at least one thing. I just brushed through it really quickly. But you said that this shot, the first shot, was fired from the other side of the street, across the street. It wasn't. It was, on the same side of the street that Kyle was on, right behind him.
Oh, okay, so perhaps I did. Okay, but luckily that doesn't seem to be a major factor, as we'll get into via the video.
I think that's significant, but it's not a factor in my video, obviously.
All right, let's go to. But if that is in that article, I will go in and make an update while noting the correction as well. All right, let's get to your video. You put this out. When did you put this out again? I want to make sure everybody knows what.
I think it was March.
Okay, March of this year.
March.
All right, because it happened in August, right?
Yeah.
Right. March of this year. And it's called Kyle Rittenhouse, Murder or Self-Defense.
Kyle Rittenhouse shot 3 people, killing 2, and has been charged with murder. But he claims he acted in self-defense. It's the most controversial and polarizing case in America today. So, instead of getting caught up in the partisan hackery surrounding this case, I want to present you with the facts and let you, the jury, come to your own conclusion. Hi, I'm Matt Orfalea.
Look a little bit different
facts on the Kyle Rittenhouse case.
If anybody in the comments can tell me who that person is, it's a little Easter egg.
All right. I'm not familiar, but we'll see.
If you can catch that guy who's playing the judge, you see him again at the end. For anybody playing at home, anybody watching at home.
All right, let's do this.
Purchased an AR-15 rifle through his older friend Dominique Black.
True.
Black is now facing charges for providing the gun to
I say this in the stream as well.
He was only 17 at the time. The gun was kept by Black's stepfather at Black's stepfather's house in a safe. Rittenhouse practiced target shooting with the adult supervision of Black's stepfather, which is legal. The plan was to transfer ownership to Rittenhouse when he turned 18. On August 24th, after finishing his lifeguard shift at a pool in Kenosha, Wisconsin, Rittenhouse and Black spent the evening at Black's stepfather's house. There they watched live streams of groups protesting the police shooting of Jacob Blake. At night, the groups had turned violent, vandalizing and burning local businesses. In response to the unrest, Black's stepfather says he took the guns out of his gun safe for personal protection.
All right, and this isn't a you issue, but I did bring up in the live stream. These Black Lives Matter protests, there's not a single case throughout the entire country where any rioting or property damage happened in residential areas. This was all done to, any damage was done to businesses. No one had any structural damage to their homes. No rioting happened there. So I think
actually that's not true. So it just in these, now I'm not an expert on all BLM, riots and protests. I do know that the majority have been peaceful, absolutely. But in Kenosha, on the 24th, residential homes were burned. They were burned, and people lost their homes. Yeah.
I'm looking it up.
Now it was apartments. I believe there were apartments. Not a house, but still, that's significant. So I mean, I just want to, obviously you're correcting me on my stuff. I want you to correct me on anything I get wrong. And so I just
I'll take your word. On a quick search here, nothing's coming up, but I'll take your word. Okay.
I mean, I could even give you names of at least one. I mean, I don't remember the names of all, but because I am working on a documentary about the Kenosha unrest as a whole, I know of one guy, Tinoch Martinez. He live streamed the whole thing.
Okay, I mean, I'm definitely send that to me. I'll take your word. Nothing's coming up online. It's possible that, sure. All right, let's continue. Oh, and what's the documentary you're talking about? That's probably one of the reasons why I also wanted to reach out to you, because if you're making a documentary, it should definitely let's critique this, make these critiques now. Maybe you'll take it into what's the name of the documentary you're working on?
It's called Killing Kenosha.
Is there any is there any meaning behind that name?
Well, I mean, Kenosha went crazy. Obviously, people got killed in Kenosha, killing Kenosha.
All right. That's all right.
And I guess I'm just a sucker for alliteration. I just
all right.
And I,
I'm not gonna say that this is why you're naming it that, because obviously I don't think that's the case. But just for reference, Bill O'Reilly has an entire series that's called his Killing series, which is killing something.
I wasn't aware of that.
Right. All right, let's go back to the video.
The next day, at 10 a.m., Rittenhouse, his sister, and Black set out to help clean up local businesses. Rittenhouse can be seen here removing graffiti from a local high school.
I understand that's part of the events that occurred in the timeline, but I mean, maybe you didn't know about this video then, and it wasn't permissible in court, but that doesn't mean the video doesn't exist. There's also video of him filming what looks like shoplifters at a CVS, and him opining about how much he wished he had his rifle so he can shoot them. I don't think the graffiti thing means anything.
No, come on, maybe that wasn't available then in March.
Oh no. I honestly, I paid a lot of attention to this case in August when it happened. Like I did a whole series, like the week and the second week, and then I followed probably towards the end of that year, and then I just had to, for my own dealing with other stories and just for my own, just to keep it fresh, I basically bowed out until the trial came back. So I wasn't sure.
Well, I'll just say, that didn't come out until a little before the trial, maybe a month or two. And when it did come out, I did think that should be shared, and I shared it immediately.
Cool, because I don't think necessarily. I don't think. First of all, like the idea, and this has been used nonstop by people who defend him, that this shows something, and I don't think it shows anything but a timeline of where he is and what he's doing. I don't think it bears any relevance into who he is. People who do bad things also do good things sometimes. Like this is not shocking.
That last part, of course, that you're absolutely right. People who do bad things can also do good things. People who do good things can also do bad things. In fact, everybody does.
Right.
But what I will take issue with is, I mean, just your kind of dismissing of this. You said this is not like a timeline, like relevant to the timeline.
No, I said it is relevant to the timeline, but that's it. Like just to place him where he is, to get a sense of how the events rolled out. But his actual actions is being used to somehow absolve him. Like, he's got to be a good kid. Look, he's cleaning graffiti. And I don't think that's the case at all.
Well, okay, I agree. Just because someone's does something positive doesn't mean they can't be a killer or go on to be a killer or even a murderer, right? Which is what was the question in this case. But I did notice that when this played in your live stream, let's see if I can remember. I mean, I think you just called it like, this is total bullshit. You just said, this is total bullshit. We already know this. Like, and you were like upset and dismissing my video because I just included this, even though it's part of the story. I mean, this is it's the fucking day before the event. So I think it's totally relevant. And it's, with everybody talking about, I don't know. I just think it's
if that's
super relevant,
if that's how it came off,
especially because of the narrative that he just, loaded up a weapon and came down to cross state lines to Kenosha just with the intent of killing people, because obviously that's not true.
Right. No, that part is definitely not true. And I agree with any of your criticism on anyone who did spread that, and people still continue to do so. It is not the case that he was basically driven by his mother across state lines on, specifically to be dropped off at the protest with the firearm crossing over with them. That's not true.
Yeah.
So
and
yeah,
I
I
appreciate
agree with
you correcting that. And you also corrected the falsehood that they, in the video of your critique, you also corrected, just that the fact that he did not cross state lines with a weapon. But you also mentioned you got upset or irritated. You didn't get it. You got a little irritated, Flair.
Right.
That when me and Jimmy just shared that fact ourselves, you're like, what this is obviously not true. If it's, and you're like, you told the audience, if you got that wrong, that's your fault.
Oh,
that's
no,
not the media's fault.
No.
And then you said that you weren't aware of any instance in the media getting that wrong and spreading that false information that he crossed state lines with an AR-15 just to shoot people. And I want to say, like, you were wrong on that. You were absolutely wrong on that. It was all over the media that he crossed state lines with an assault weapon to shoot people, all over the media.
You're conflating two things, and it's not your fault because you can't remember what I said in that live stream video. You asked actually to watch my live stream video version, just to let everybody know, but my live stream version is 2 hours long. To me, it makes more sense to go through this 13-minute one that you made. But so you're not, I'm not going to fault you for just conflating the two things. You're right in that I said those things, but wrong about what I said them about. I said them about Jimmy Dore saying that he had no idea that the people that Rittenhouse shot weren't black. That's what I said that about, and that to me,
it was both. It was both.
No, just that.
All right.
Well,
luckily, it's there. People can find.
For sure. Listen, I've been
fact check us.
right. But because that's not the case, and I didn't plan on bringing that up during our conversation, because I don't know I can't recall if you agreed with him or just like let him talk. But the media in the United States did not ever make a mistake on that. There was never any discussion of Kyle Rittenhouse shooting black people. The media never made any distinct, like, it was never the thing. And honestly, if you just read a completely factual headline that I think I was looking at some headlines before we started, and if I recall, one was like 17-year-old shooter kills 2 at Kenosha protest, and another one was Kyle Rittenhouse shoots 3 at Black Lives Matter protest. If you just read those headlines, completely factual. I know headlines could mislead, but those headlines are not misleading. If you just on your own make that assumption, that's your fault for not clicking on the link and reading the very basics of the case. And it's not like the video and photos were like, this all came out at the trial. Video and photos were all over the internet the night it happened and quickly spread, and I'm pretty sure they were plastered all over the newspapers. I mean, you didn't have to, you literally just to open your eyes and turn a page or click a link. This was not hidden. There was no hiding that he shot 3 white people. I mean,
I think it was hidden. Now you say, you didn't see any media explicitly saying that, the people he shot were black. And I can't think of any off the top of my head. But the way that people got the impression that that was the case, I suspect that it was reported that way somewhere and maybe later corrected. But even if they didn't do that, they still misled people. And I'll give you one obvious example. One obvious example is in an article by The Intercept. The word white was mentioned 20 times, and each time it was mentioned was to describe, Kyle's skin color and talk about white supremacy.
Oh, I know it. I know it.
Alleged white supremacy.
I know it.
And so, well, let me finish.
All right, sure.
And not one time of those 20 mentions did it refer to the skin color of the people he shot. Not once. So that is purposely deceiving a reader. I mean, you can't deny that, right?
I mean,
into believing, assuming, understandably so, that Black Lives Matter protesters were black, because, why wouldn't they mention it other? If they didn't want to deceive people, they would have mentioned their skin color in addition to Kyle's, right?
I mean, I know what article you're talking about. It's the one Glenn Greenwald tweeted out earlier today from The Intercept, right? Natasha Leonard.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. You tell me about that.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going off what he said.
Let me pull this article up to make sure I know exactly, to confirm it's the article I'm thinking of. Because if I recall, this article is not solely about Kyle Rittenhouse. It's can
I look it up?
Sure. Go ahead. Sure, take time.
Well, what is it? Do you know? Have it up?
I could bring it up on the screen actually right now. One second.
Cool.
All right, cool. So let me just make sure I remember. Minute 45 in case we lose track of where the video is. All right, here we go. So this is the Natasha Leonard article. Cases over far-right violence show limits and opportunities for anti-fascism in courts. I mean, it's literally an article, and it was posted in October 30th, just a few weeks ago. It's basically an article that looks at all these various different right-wing cases in court right now. We got Kyle Rittenhouse. We got the Unite the Right rally trial in Charlottesville. I'm not sure if she mentions the Ahmaud Arbery case, but here, let's go to the Rittenhouse one. I mean, she, if I recall, doesn't even mention the people he shot at all, because they're not the point of the article. The article is basically about how there's all of these various different right-wing related trials in court right now, and it shows how basically says right here, cases over far-right violence, and that's what this is.
Yes, and the subtitle is the Kyle Rittenhouse murder trial.
And the civil suit against the
organizers of the United Right rally in Charlottesville hold lessons about fighting fascism with law. So the Kyle Rittenhouse murder trial holds lessons about fighting fascism with the law. Now,
fascism
so obviously
isn't
it's about him. Obviously, it's not only about him in that case, but if you're putting him in an article where it's all about white supremacy, lots of that, it seems like she's assuming that Rittenhouse is a white supremacist or related to white, somehow connected to white supremacists or white supremacy. And that has not been established.
I mean, his Facebook had Blue Lives Matter logos all over it. I don't think anyone can, I mean, sure.
Well, but hold on. Just because you support the police or you say Blue Lives Matter, that's very, very different from white supremacy. From now, obviously, dude, I'm not. Obviously, there is some racism, and there, has been KKK in the goddamn police departments, but it's not fair to assume just because somebody, has sympathy and, respects police officers that that they're a white supremacist.
I mean,
right?
there's a huge difference between like someone who supports the
and
police.
that's the first thing you went to. Just because I say there's. I mean, it has not been established he has any connection to white supremacy, and that's the first thing you went to, that he just supports the police, that he says blue lives matter. I mean,
there's a let me finish here. I interrupted you too, so it's cool. But there's a huge difference between someone who supports the police. I mean, your grandma, your grandpa, your uncle, your aunt, probably supports the police. Blue Lives Matter, being a stringent Blue Lives Matter person, is not the same as supporting the police. The Blue Lives Matter thing is specifically a right-wing movement that was started specifically to oppose in the shadow of Black Lives Matter. I mean, it's right in the name. It was basically to say, hey, actually, no, we don't think Black Lives Matter because we don't think police should be held accountable when they kill you. I mean, that's what Blue Lives Matter is. That's not even the same as supporting the police.
Now, look, I'm sure that some people who use that motto and hashtag feel that way. I think you're 100% right. But I just do think it's unfair to assume everybody, that because someone thinks police lives matter and they want to point out that, it's entirely plausible. And I think it's fair and right to assume that many of the people who believe Blue Lives Matter and police lives matter also would agree that Black Lives Matter. I mean, how can I just think? And okay, that's one thing we disagree on. Okay,
yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Being that this article that we're bringing up is recent, I want to bring this up too because then it makes sense. I wouldn't have brought this up if this was an article from before, when this happened, because then this wasn't known then. But I mean, Kyle Rittenhouse is hanging out with the Proud Boys, doing the okay sign with them, which when they do it, we all know what it means. It's not the same as okay. What is that doesn't show that the dude has white supremacist sympathies at the very least?
No, I really hesitate to make like that huge leap because look, just so everyone knows, that okay sign, you can find anybody making this okay sign anywhere on the earth, like right. Including pretty much every goddamn American over the last, I don't know, 50, 100 years, I don't know. But yeah, has fuck. I shouldn't have done that because now you're.
I did it too. I mean,
okay.
But we're not white. Yeah. We're not meaning it in that way like they do. Like, let's put it this way. You know that before the Nazis, we would do the kids in school when we would salute the flag, when we would do the Pledge of Allegiance. We didn't put our hand on our heart. We did the equivalent of the Sieg Heil to the flag, and then because the Nazis decided to use that. Just the same thing as the Americans, right? Doing the good old patriotic Sieg Heiling to Hitler. That doesn't, obviously we couldn't be Nazis if we're doing that. That's why we changed it, because they took it over. I mean, this is basically, obviously they're not large enough like Nazi Germany was to change everybody from using the OK sign, but signals mean different things when different people use them. And I completely agree that not everybody who does the OK sign, I mean, I've done a long video explaining the OK signal and what it means. When it was started as a 4chan gag, or they love the lulz there.
A troll,
right?
Just a troll, a prank.
Right? And then white supremacists like the Proud Boys thought this is great. We're going to use this, and when we use it, if anyone calls us out for it, we can just say, you're falling for the 4chan troll. You're falling for the 4chan gag. I mean, there's a reason why Milo Yiannopoulos and all the other all the other right-wing, who else? Mike Cernovich, Jack Posiebik, all the other Proud Boys that you could think of, all the other alt-right figures, Richard Spencer. I mean, there's a reason they all do that. I mean, it's not because they're all hanging out on 4chan doing it for the lulz.
Right. Well, actually, I think part of it might be for the lulz. You said it originated with trolling. I mean, they could just be, trolling. I mean, because they know people are going to make a big thing about it, and that was the whole point of the original 4chan troll. I'm obviously playing devil's advocate, but I really do think it's unfair to assume somebody's racist because they make the OK sign.
He's also
and look.
Boys.
Obviously, the Proud Boys, from what I know about them, obviously, they sound like a pretty bad influence. But I mean, hey, I'm not an expert on the Proud Boys, but I did, the first thing that pops up is Southern Poverty Law Center. I'm sure there's, examples of, racism in the group, but I mean, the first paragraph at the top goes, established in the midst of the 2016 presidential election by Vice Media co-founder Gavin McInnes. The Proud Boys are self-described Western chauvinists who adamantly deny any connection to the racist alt-right.
Oh, of course.
They insist that they are simply a fraternal group spreading an anti-political correctness and anti-white guilt agenda.
And the leader of the Proud Boys, Enrique Tarantino, is currently serving a jail sentence for attacking a black church in Washington, D.C.
Tell me what happened. Yeah, what happened there?
They desecrated the church's Black Lives Matter flag, and I think if I recall, they may have burnt it, but they did damage to the church as well. And because he is,
or maybe he stole it or something, if I recall. Whatever, they did something with the flag.
Right.
They did something with it. They took the Black Lives Matter flag and did something.
Right. I mean, I don't know.
So,
if you attack a black church,
to be fair,
if someone attacked the synagogue, wouldn't you say that was anti-Semitic?
Well, but depends on what you mean by attack. I mean, if they just stole a flag.
If they ripped down a Star of David off a synagogue, you wouldn't think that was an anti-Semitic attack?
Ripped down I mean, I can't even. That's just such a dumb act. Like, it's hard to imagine somebody doing it. But let me say, you mentioned if someone like attacked a synagogue or whatever, people. There was this big. I recall a few years ago. There was this big hype about rising anti-Semitism, and the source number one reasoning for this was this one synagogue was getting a ton of bomb threats, and articles increasing anti-Semitism, synagogues, tons of bomb threats, just won't stop. Turns out it was an Israeli kid, Israeli prankster kid, and so. I mean, people can just be being idiots, like fucking asshole trolls,
I mean,
also, let me just make one more point.
Sure.
So they say they're anti-white guilt. So, I guess one could associate, if you have that mindset, right, that Black Lives Matter is making them, they think they shouldn't. Black Lives Matter is going out of their way. They're really pushing to make everybody feel like a white guilt. Okay. So they can say like, hey, it's almost like potentially the opposite. If someone says, I have an issue with you saying everything's white supremacist, and so they take their flag, that doesn't mean they're white supremacist. I know. Hey, I'm trying to play.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Let's go back to the video.
Okay.
I think just the one point on the Israeli thing. I mean, people of Israel were big fans of Donald Trump, and we know who also supported him. You had basically Israeli far right wingers literally holding hand in hand with actual legitimate white supremacists like David Duke, who literally is I don't think you would doubt that he is anti-Semitic. I mean, I think I know you generally enough to think you wouldn't think that he was just trolling on 4chan.
Yeah. One other thought on the we can move on if you want. I know we've gone on for this for a while, and I said I'm not a fucking expert on the Proud Boys. I just had to fucking Google them. I know they're a gang. They're basically a gang, and they antagonize. And they fight. They're violent. They get violent. But let's remember, Rittenhouse is 17 years old. The fucking president of the United States just called him a white supremacist. The whole media machine is framing him as a terrorist even, right? And he ends up, his mom takes him to the bar. Probably not a good move, Mom, but the only people who will give him an audience that might not, so these people show up. This is a time where anybody he sees might fucking beat the shit out of him. Maybe he would rightfully be fearing for his life at this point. There is so much hate around for him. I just saw posts talking about now he's getting off. He's got to worry about getting killed, like an actual threat on Twitter. And so these are the people, these are the only people around. And hey, they sure seem like a terrible, they'd be a bad influence, but to ascribe the thoughts of some of the hateful people in this group to the 17-year-old who's really has no one else to hang out with, I think it's fair to say at this point. And he's also this is just a bar one night. I don't know if we don't know if this is a regular thing.
He just on Tucker Carlson today.
Yeah.
They just announced that they did a documentary with him, and he'll be joining Tucker Carlson as a guest on the show on Monday. I mean,
well, so I mean, what's the point of that? You mean Rittenhouse will be on the show?
Rittenhouse.
Yeah.
Tucker Carlson's crew has been following Rittenhouse this entire time to
but
film
you
the
have to
documentary.
agree that's different from like a white supremacist who's on the Proud Boys or with the Proud Boys, right?
I mean, if listen, Fox News period, I have an issue with, sure, but this isn't even like the news division of Fox News. This is literally like the White Power Hour on Fox News. This is Tucker Carlson. I mean, the guy who's literally spreading great replacement theory, like legit white supremacy ideology on his program nightly.
But see, if that now I know damn well, yeah, he race baits like a mother. I mean, but it's wrong, I think, to assume that everybody that Tucker Carlson covers, does a story about, has got to be connected to white supremacy.
Well, in this specific case, it's his purpose is to show that he's some sort of hero, and that we should all. I mean, this is going to be. And
hold on, listen. I disagree that he's. Sorry, I'll let you go. I'm talking.
No,
I disagree. I don't think he's a hero, but just making a documentary that frames him as a hero doesn't mean he's a white supremacist. You know what I mean? Like these are separate things. Like someone's belief about race, other races, is completely separate from their thoughts on the Second Amendment and standing up against rioters.
Let's go back to the video, because I think we're going a little bit too far off. But I think we should say, like, because you brought up the Joe Biden video, and regardless of what you think of that, there's people who think that like that video somehow proves the verdict in the trial, the not guilty on all counts verdict, somehow proves that Rittenhouse isn't a white supremacist, and so that would be slander or something. I mean, the jury did not say that he was found not guilty of being a white supremacist. I mean, someone can be found not guilty of killing these people that he killed and still be white supremacist. I mean, that's just there's no.
I'm not saying that's not possible. Right. I just troubles me that like with such flaky evidence, that people like automatically assume he's a white supremacist, that he's racist.
I mean, I don't think the evidence is so flaky, but we could agree to disagree there.
Okay.
Right, cool.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I think there's more evidence to prove that he's a white supremacist than than even like the case that like he wasn't acting in self-defense. Like, I think there's more to prove him as a white supremacist than the fact that like maybe he actually had to shoot. Honestly, like I actually think there's more to prove the white supremacy thing than that.
Well, I mean, before we move on, I really want to know, like, what is all of the evidence you've given me is that he made the OK sign. I think we agree that that's ridiculous. There's hanging out with Proud Boys. I mean, they say they're anti-white guilt. Obviously, there's some. I mean, maybe some are racist. I'm reading the Southern Poverty, but listen, obviously a racist would be attracted to like an anti-white guilt thing, but I just think it's. I mean, he was at a bar with them one night. The people at the bar happened to be, this crew. And
we're digging.
there's a photo of him making an OK sign with. I just hesitate to draw that serious conclusion. It's just such a serious conclusion that I just don't think it's right to make that big assumptions based on just that.
We're digging even way too into this. I mean, you could just look at the basic facts of the matter. This Kyle Rittenhouse saw what was going on in Kenosha, a huge movement over the police shooting of a black man. Black people and their white allies were very upset by this. We're hitting the streets. There were some peaceful protests, some rioting, and seeing all this, what he wanted to do wasn't join them in the streets to also protest the shooting of this black man. His thought was to protect the property that was being destroyed. I mean, in my estimation, that's not like that's a tell right there. I mean, that's part that comes in the package here.
Wait, so because somebody's instinct, so it's his community, and we can debate that later. And that's the whole part of the whole he crossed state lines narrative. That was the whole purpose, was to separate him from the community, because if it's not his community, then obviously it has to be something else motivating him. Maybe it's a desire to kill, right? So but it is his community. I think it's fair to say, because he worked there, he had friends there, and his family lived there. His best friend. I mean, and so I feel like I don't think it's right to say that because his instinct was to protect property instead of marching with Black Lives Matter, that means he's racist.
I mean, it wasn't like he stayed home and decided not to march with them. He distinctly decided to go out there and do things to oppose them.
No, not necessarily. How was he opposing Black Lives Matter? In fact, I mean, you tell me.
I mean, by showing up with a rifle and then joining a group of other fellow militia, law enforcement loving right-wing types. Boogaloo Boys were there as well. Joining up with them and deciding to use those rifles. But you're doing this like guilt with
association thing again. Like Boogaloo Boys, yes, some of them are white supremacists and racists. Some of them are.
Right.
Not all of them. Like, that's been established by the Anti-Defamation League, and I believe it's a Georgetown University professor who's really dedicated a lot of, really dove in deep. I may have her university wrong, but I think it is George. But certainly the Anti-Defamation League, and it's like, so again, what else besides this guilt by association thing?
I mean, I'm telling you, he showed up with a rifle to distinctly go against the Black Lives Matter protesters. How is that distinctly against the Black Lives Matter protesters? He was threatening them with his rifle.
Now, if he was, we don't know that. He was threatening them.
There's video. There's video of people yelling at them. Why did you bring your guns? You're agitating people. You're bothering people.
Oh, the militia. Yeah. Okay. So we're talking about
I mean, that's who he's with.
As a whole. I understand. But again, like, there's no evidence that they were. In fact, the only times I've seen. I mean, what point are you talking about? Because when their things are aggravated, usually it's a both sides thing. And I know you're going to, I mean, if we do play the video, or everyone already knows, they've watched, your video or my video. And yes, the militia does get rowdy. And one guy in particular does start stuff later in the night, but it's not Rittenhouse. And when the militia does, things do get inflamed, get tense, typically, at least it's at least Rosenbaum started it in one instance.
Have you seen that? Have you seen that video of Kyle Rittenhouse walking around screaming that medic, I'm a medic, anyone need help, and everyone's ignoring him because they want nothing to do with him. It's my opinion. In this video, it is true, and in fact, two black protesters specifically call him out and saying, "How dare you
Oh.
walk around saying you're a medic when you just threatened us over there with your gun and said, get out of the car or get off the car or whatever." And they're saying you threatened. He pulled the gun up on us. I mean. That's someone who is out there to agitate and oppose the protesters. You don't have to agree with what they're doing, but if you go out there and specifically get in their face and oppose what they're doing, I mean, you are agitating them. You're putting yourself in that situation.
But Matt, offering medical service, how is that?
That nobody wanted. Nobody wanted it.
Obviously, in that one clip, yeah, they weren't having it.
So you think?
But you can't blame somebody for offering medical service. You can't say that they're purposely agitating.
That's what that whole thing is. Like that to me, that's why, like, listen, I hate to, I don't want to lump anyone into here, but like the Jimmy Dores when he was covering the Boogaloo Boys and like all that, those people do not understand that the right has a very explicit, like you don't even see the okay thing. They have a very, and I've been covering specifically the right wing. Like that's my beat for over a decade now. And this is the game here. This is the game plan they have here. We go out, we bother people, we agitate.
The game is to offer medical help, assistance?
Dude,
I mean, how is that? Now, you can argue just just him showing up with a gun, the more guns there are, the more tense the situation becomes. Yeah. But offering medical advice, I just, right. How is he? And also, how did you get from that you were trying to explain how he's racist.
Well, because
some of the armed people were Boogaloo.
Well, let's put it
which is not a racist organization, which just has a fraction of racist members.
I don't want to go through the whole Boogaloo Boy because it's a whole nother conversation, but the Boogaloo name literally comes from a meme. Again, this is how they do it. Everything's based on memes so they could have plausible deniability. The Electric Boogaloo 2 movie, their thing is Civil War 2. They want a second civil war. And what do you think that entails? I mean, that's a race war.
War, guns, but that's not racist.
A civil war in this country is not racist.
Well, the civil war in this country was a lot about race.
There was only one
but a civil war is war and does not automatically imply.
Well, when you say civil war,
come on, you got guys talking about fucking. Well, anyway, like seceding now is not. It's not about slavery or race. Like they just hate the Democrats and big government or whatever. Nay, people are some people are racist. I mean, in the South more so, but well,
all right, let's get back to the video. I think it's been a good conversation, but let's get back to the video so we don't miss out on this. Because we're only a minute.
Let me say. Okay, just last thing. I promise. Just because we were talking about race and so Kyle's sister was reported by the Washington Post. The Washington Post reported that Kyle's sister says that Kyle generally, supports Black Lives Matter. Generally. But the sister went on to say he takes big issue with the violence and rioting. But I mean, it's. All right, and then. I mean,
let's put it this way.
Last thing on race, and is this school that we're looking at right here?
All right.
This is a majority non-white school. It's one of the most diverse schools in Kenosha.
Okay.
I mean, I just don't think.
Enrico Tarantino, who pulled down that Black Lives Matter flag and is serving a jail sentence for destroying that black church's property, he's not white. That doesn't really. But if Kyle Rittenhouse supported let's just leave it this here and we'll go back to the video. If Kyle Rittenhouse supported Black Lives Matter, he had a weird way of showing it that night. There's clearly two sides that night: Black Lives Matter, the armed militia types. We know where Kyle Rittenhouse decided who Kyle Rittenhouse decided to stand with. That's like not debatable. Like that's a fact.
Yes, but it's also important to say, I think there were three types, at least, right? The Black Lives Matter was not just all peaceful protesters. Some were rioting. That very moment, you know, and leading up to that moment where all this, where, the shots are fired, where he's first chased, this is, people are rioting. They are smashing the cars, and cars are being lit on fire at that very moment. They were not protesting at that moment. I think that's an important distinction.
I mean, in my view, rioting is protest. It's a form of protest. I don't know why this country
Hey,
thinks.
I'm not okay. That's
it's not
okay. I
just
think
you.
that's
This
fair. I
country-
think it's
this-
fair to say that, but it's a totally different class of totally different type of protest. And when you say protest, I think most people will assume peaceful protest. Most people will assume that.
And that's-
of course, the violence is can be used as a form of protest, but it's very different, and understandably, it elicits different reactions.
Right. I mean, I would say that, if you look at the civil rights movement, Malcolm X and MLK Jr. had, very different, actions and way to go about how they wanted to, support their movement. But they clearly were on the same side of the civil rights movement. They might have disagreed and had debates over tactics and things like that, but their motives their goal was pretty much the same.
Yeah, yeah. And so I mean, Kyle could theoretically, support Black Lives Matter, but obviously he doesn't. It's made very clear by his sister's quote that he does not support and his, him on video 2 weeks earlier, that he does not support violence or just crime or any crime. And
All right, let's get back to the video.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
yeah.
That same morning, Joseph Rosenbaum, who would later become the first man shot by Rittenhouse, was released from a mental hospital. He had recently overdosed on pills in an apparent suicide attempt.
I mean, listen, you could. I feel like you could have added the hospital thing as part of the timeline. Obviously, I think the timeline of everything is relevant, but I mean, what matters that he overdosed on suicide pills? I mean, we see how the mainstream media does this to people to try to use mental illness as some sort of automatic belief that someone is not in the right frame of mind and has to be guilty. They're a bad guy.
Well, I don't say any of that stuff.
I mean, but they don't say that either. They just put this stuff forward. Like, you could have just said
What do you mean they don't say that either?
the mainstream
they?
media doesn't say he was mentally ill and that makes him a bad guy. You say he was at a mental hospital and he was there because he overdosed on suicide pills. I mean, you're planting.
I didn't say suicide.
I'm sorry,
pills,
it's not suicide. He overdosed on pills to try to commit suicide.
Yes,
I mean,
but just stating that, it's a fact, and I think it's relevant because this is, he got out of the mental hospital that day. And so I'm just explaining how he ended up there. And this is the guy that, is responsible for starting, igniting the flame that set off this entire tragic, sequence.
I mean, but I don't see how this is relevant. Like, again, for timeline purposes, him being released from a hospital, because it does add to the fact that he does not have he leaves this hospital without a home, a place to go. He's essentially a homeless individual. Like, he's essentially a homeless guy. He has no home. Let's continue the video, and then
he went to. And I don't say this in the video, but he went to his fiance's.
No, you do say this in the video.
Apartment or hotel. No, I don't say it. But I mentioned something his fiance said. But I mean, just for people who are interested. Yeah, so he went there, and his fiance would not let him stay because. Oh, and I explained why, and this is why. Although I don't. Yeah.
Dude, his face went off. She's bleeding everywhere and bruises on her.
After being released, Rosenbaum visited his fiancée, but she would not let him spend the night.
I did say it. Okay.
She said she feared he'd be arrested for violating a court order to stay away from her. She also says that she warned Rosenbaum to not go downtown.
What is the relevance of her warning Rosenbaum not to go downtown?
I mean, it's just what happened. I think the next part is is the relevant part.
Because if the argument is that Kyle Rittenhouse has every right to be down there, then so does Joseph Rosenbaum.
I would never argue otherwise.
Right, but I
would never argue otherwise.
I think when you put that line in there, it gives people the leading idea that what was he doing? What was he doing? He did. Why was he down there?
I think that's a fair question though. Like, what was he doing downtown? That's a fair question.
I mean, what was Kyle Rittenhouse doing downtown? We know Joseph Rosenbaum was with the protesters.
That's absolutely a fair question. Yes, and I say that, and that is the whole point of the trial. Like, what the fuck was led up to this? What the fuck was going on? And we learned a lot more from the trial and testimony, but these are the details we had, and I think it's totally relevant. I think everyone, was interested in knowing this and understanding this. And if you play the next part, I know I remember you took issue with the next part.
Let's play it.
And yeah.
He does not know why he did.
As far as that night, I have absolutely no idea why he was downtown. None whatsoever.
Okay, pause it and tell me why you have a problem with that.
All right, I mean, I just don't think it's. I mean, listen, if you're doing if you're doing a full-on interview with his fiance, and you're getting you're putting it all in one piece, I think that's fine because you're getting her story, her side of things. But you're selectively editing something here to basically, I mean, the point of putting that in your piece, I don't see how anyone could argue other than, I don't see what the argument for putting that specific part in other than to say, why was he down there? He had no real business going down there. Even his fiance didn't want him going down there. And if that's your argument, you can make that same argument about Kyle Rittenhouse, about all the other armed people, about essentially anyone. You're basically saying no one has a right to be down there. And I mean,
no, I'm not essentially saying that at all. That's completely false. I just think it's, one of the things that people accepted. Well, you agree that, how they ended up down there is interesting, and that could provide clues to the motivation, state of mind that set off this chain of events, right?
I think just
because unfortunately we don't have, there's a little gaps, like we don't have video covering every little, inch. So this could provide evidence to explain how this fucking started off. Now we have a lot of video evidence, and that's great. But the media, all the media, as we mentioned, described these victims, we'll call them victims, fine, people who were shot by Rittenhouse as Black Lives Matter protesters. And so, I mean, is it not relevant, worth noting that one of the men did not appear to be down there for Black Lives Matter?
But what makes him? I mean, he could have went down there and been there protecting property with the militia people, but he didn't. He was standing alongside all the Black Lives Matter protesters. I don't understand how there's not proof that he went down there to protest alongside the Black Lives Matter protesters. I mean, he didn't need to always know he was going to go down there. He could have simply went down there because he had nowhere else to go. But once he got down there, it's quite clear who he decided to march and take sides with. And do even the violence he commits, and he does. Obviously, we have the video of him, property damage, I should say, because we should state that he never touches Kyle Rittenhouse. That's clear from even what Kyle Rittenhouse says on trial. Joseph Rosenbaum never physically touches him. He goes down there and he's not a good guy. He doesn't have to be a good guy. We know he has a history, and I do think that it's good you didn't put, because there's other people who love flaunting the idea that this was a guy who spent a long time in jail and had a rap sheet or whatever, and you don't, to your credit, you don't put that in here because it's irrelevant. Yeah, I think you agree it's completely irrelevant.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think his history of raping minors is, obviously it's horrible, but it's not relevant to figuring out what happened this night. And that's the purpose of the video. That's what I wanted to explore, or specifically what caused this tragic, fatal violence, this shootings. And I think that knowing that the one person he saw, his fiance, probably the closest person in the world to him, did not say, oh, he was a big supporter of Black Lives Matter. He went down to support Black Lives Matter. She said she had no idea what he was doing there. And we don't see him, like it.
Kyle Rittenhouse's mom didn't know what he was doing there.
We do know what he went down for.
No, but
we do
but
know
his
mom.
mom.
It's very different.
But because he's alive, he could tell you in court. We can't ask Joseph Rosenbaum why he was there because he's dead.
It's not just why. So you agree that it's important. It's we should figure out why Rosenbaum was there, and I thought that was important evidence to help us figure out and consider why he was there.
If your
was
argument,
it Black Lives Matter? Was it something else?
If
was it just random? Was it just the guy had nowhere to fucking go, and he just ends up there at night, which I think is a likely possibility. It seems like that to me.
If your argument, though, and maybe this isn't your argument, but there are a lot of people who have this argument. If your argument is Kyle Rittenhouse has every right to be there, then Joseph Rosenbaum does, and we don't need to know why either of them are there.
I'm definitely not arguing he doesn't have a right to be there. Everyone has a right to be there, of course.
And then on the flip side, though, if we know why Kyle Rittenhouse is there according to his own words and how he portrays himself being there, whether you believe that or not, that's fine. Because he's on camera and had the opportunity to share that. We'll never be able to get that out of Joseph Rosenbaum. In my opinion, to just put something in there where he can't speak for himself as to why he was there, that really, in again, my opinion, gives off the idea that he shouldn't have been down there because his fiance told him not to. I think it's no.
I mean, I included that because that's the only little peek into like why was he down there? Yeah, just because he's not around to share that information, I think that's relevant information because this is a mystery. We're trying to figure this out. What the fuck led to this? Why were these people there? And
all right, let's keep going.
Yeah.
Because I do want to get through the whole video.
And also, hold on. No, this is important. I want to get through it too. But you mentioned that Kyle Rittenhouse gets to say he was there, and you don't because to defend property, but we can't believe that because
you can if you want to
because he could be lying, right?
You're free to believe it or not.
Yeah. But you're saying it's not trustworthy. But here's the thing. And I do go on to actually. Well, maybe I'll wait for when I say it, and you can. Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
Okay.
Right. Rosenbaum is seen pushing a flaming dumpster
this is true,
towards
that is him.
a gas station. When others put out the dumpster fire, Rosenbaum tries to start a fight over it and begins yelling at armed citizens.
Shoot me, nigga. Shoot me, nigga. Bust on me, nigga, for real.
All right, so clearly he's upset, but you frame it as he's upset solely about the fire extinguisher putting out the dumpster fire he was pushing. But he's voicing what he's upset about right there over and over and over again. And it's the fact that these guys are threatening him with the guns.
You don't know that.
He says it clearly over and over again. He doesn't say anything. Never says dumpster fire. Never says the fire. Never says the garbage. Never says anything like that. He's upset about the guns. And
you don't know that. No, but what about the guns? He's daring people to shoot him because he sees the guns. I mean, I don't...
Because they're being threatening with it. They're holding the guns and bringing it around like this. They're swinging the guns around. You could see it in the video. I mean,
okay. I mean, as I've said before, obviously the guns make everything more tense, and of course that made the situation more tense. But you could see that the entire altercation started with the dumpster fire, with him pushing the dumpster fire and it being put out. That's what started it.
Sure. Okay.
And I'm not hiding that he's, yelling about the guns and daring people to shoot him. And I mean, I'm not hiding any of that. You made it seem like I'm hiding something.
I mean, there is a clip there's a clip I can play. You do start this clip with the Joseph Rosenbaum thing in the beginning, and it's clear that it's not him who like it's also framed as, because the clip starts right, you go from the dumpster fire to him yelling, and that's not where the video starts though. The video starts focused on other people who were also clearly upset with the guys holding the rifles, and it looks like that has nothing to do with the dumpster fire at all. Like if Joseph Rosenbaum,
I disagree. Look at, I mean, just
let's
rewind
play
it
the
and
clip.
play it. Just rewind this a little bit and play it, and you see play the video that you just played.
Sure.
Video.
Hold on one second. I lost.
Just from the dumpster fire. Just from the dumpster.
Right. I lost place. 1 second. Just give me one. All right, here we go.
Yeah.
Dumpster fire. Rosenbaum tries to start a fight over it and begins yelling at armed citizens.
He is in the front.
Well, in that video, yes, the way where you started and how you have it. But I have another video that shows that same exact moment where he's not in the, like. There's a whole nother section in front where there's another group of those same protesters yelling at with the militia type people. I mean, I could play it so we can see.
Yeah,
it.
he's not the only one that's upset.
And they're
okay,
not, but they're not yelling about the.
Go ahead, play it if you want.
Yeah, here we go. There's another woman yelling, "You're out here pointing shit at the people with the rifles." That woman right there, that woman with the green spaghetti strap shirt. You have another protester telling them to get back. They're agitating the crowd.
Well, I mean, what? Duh.
And then obviously Joseph Rosenbaum is agitated himself, and he's causing issue too. But look, there's other individuals who have nothing to do with the dumpster fire, yelling at the armed individuals for agitating everybody else too.
You don't know. You don't. Well, first of all, okay,
this is the same
whole
clip
crowd
that you
was
play,
behind the dumpster fire, and of course, I mean, obviously, there's a tense situation.
Dumpster fire is nowhere in this clip.
Yes,
Dumpster
other people got
in this clip.
upset too. Yes, everyone's like, both sides are incredibly antagonistic towards each other the whole night. But what I showed was that Rosenbaum was the person. He was the aggressor here. He pushed the dumpster fire, and he was the first one to go forward to try and start fighting with him. Now, I mean, yes, other people are upset, but they're not characters later on in, to this terrible fucking tragic sequence where people are shot and killed.
But the
that's
point
why I focus on Rosenbaum.
Well, sure, that's why the focus on Rosenbaum. But the point is that it is in your clip and my clip, the other protesters, as well as Joseph Rosenbaum. None of them are saying, you put out the dumpster fire, you're not letting us destroy property. It is, stop pointing those guns at us. Stop pointing those guns at us. That is what creates.
They don't repeat that. But I did hear one person say,
stop pointing that at us.
But they made yeah, okay, you made a point. So, okay, I mean, listen, in a longer documentary, which I am making, hell yeah, I want to include this whole scene. It's an incredibly tense scene, and it shows the fucking dynamic that's going on the whole goddamn night. But I just included the portion with Rosenbaum because Rosenbaum starting it, because that's who's involved. That's who sets off the whole thing at the end. So we're following him.
I mean, but also Kyle Rittenhouse isn't involved in putting out the dumpster fire. So
I didn't say he was.
No, I know you didn't say he was, but that has nothing. This would ostensibly, though, have nothing to do with his beef with Rosenbaum's beef with Rittenhouse, though, because Kyle's not there. So I mean, I don't know how else to really put this, because you don't agree that clearly Rosenbaum is voicing what his issue is, and it's not the dumpster fire. Because if it was the dumpster fire, then what is the beef with Rittenhouse? If it's the guns, then we understand the beef with Rittenhouse. Rittenhouse has nothing to do with the dumpster fire, though, is what I'm pointing out here.
Whether it's the dumpster fire, I'm not claiming it's the dumpster fire or the people with guns that are irritating him at this point. I think you're just seeing, well, yeah, actually, you do see that in the video. He's trying to fight people with guns. So he's trying to start shit with people with guns for whatever reason. Maybe he hates these motherfuckers because he thinks they're all white supremacists. Who knows, right? Maybe. Or maybe he's just, it also looks like he's just trying to fight fucking anybody. And he's in a terrible state of mind, incredibly aggressive state of mind. I mean, that's all it's showing. I think that's relevant. All right. I mean,
all right, let's keep going.
I'm not, and I'm not hiding anything. I'm not trying to hide anything. I can't, and I don't, it just seems odd that you automatically think that I am.
I mean,
when it's clearly I'm not.
I mean, it seems to me, if you refute that, I can only take your word, and I will. But I think you should understand how someone would take where you start this clip and how you frame it. When again, the victim, or if you don't consider him the victim, Joseph Rosenbaum is clearly saying what the issue is, like over and over again. And it's not, he never says the dumpster, the fire, let me break a car, let me do this. The only words that come out of his mouth have to do with the guns they're carrying. But let's continue.
Yeah, hold on. Yes, he talks about the guns. He says,
that's all he talks
N-word,
about.
shoot me N-word.
That's all he talks about.
No, but that doesn't, but he also immediately goes over there after they put out the dumpster fire.
Well, do we know the timeline of events there? Because the dumpster fire is not there. Like, it's not there in that clip. Like, you don't, like, it's in that clip where you see him pushing it, but where the argument is fighting, we don't know how much time has gone between the dumpster fire and this clip. I don't see the dumpster anywhere here. It's not between the protesters. It's not in the gas station there. It
was immedially before. Okay, the dumpster fire was put out, and then you see it here. Then the protesters, or whatever you will call them, they go forward, and Rosenbaum leads the pack, and is trying to fight people. I mean,
all right, let's continue. I think.
I want to point out that the Washington Post cut that whole sequence out. That whole sequence.
I will say that I saw the video that you covered, and they did do a bad job in that video. It does seem like they were focusing on Rosenbaum and Rittenhouse. So it is a big deal they did not put that in, but they did put that in other videos. But at the same time, they should have included that. This also becomes relevant in something you say later about that video where they leave out. They don't mention that Gage Grosskreutz has a gun in his hand. That is relevant. Again, that's not the point of that specific video. That specific video.
Oh, come on, dude.
No,
it's all about what happened that night in the shootings.
Well, that video specifically focuses on the first.
I can't believe you're excusing the Washington Post.
No, I'm not.
For not commenting or pointing out that one of the people Rittenhouse shot had a gun. You are excusing them. I'm not excusing
them. I said in my stream too. They should have 100% mentioned in that segment that Grosskreutz was carrying a gun when he was shot. 100%. I'm not saying anything. But they do mention it in other videos. They should have mentioned it in that one too. I don't know.
I'm not sure they did. I'm not sure they did. And also, this one video that I critiqued with Jimmy in the live stream. That's the one that's got the most views on YouTube. If you searched for Kyle Rittenhouse, Kenosha, or just Kyle Rittenhouse, that is what popped up at the top of the search results. It's got almost 1 million views, and that's what everybody was fed, and it was missing crucial details.
Right.
And crucial details.
I agree with you on that.
And as much as I agree with, hey, to pointing out, wanting to see more and more context, I agree with you. That's why I want to make a feature-length documentary. That's what I'm working on. I completely agree with you. But criticizing me for like these little extra stuff that's not relevant to Rosenbaum,
I don't think this stuff is little extra stuff.
Yeah, I'm just amazed that you, at least in the live stream, maybe you do seem to be a little more even-handed here, but in the live stream, you were really constantly forgiving and excusing the mainstream media, Washington Post, New York Times, and it's just.
Well, they actually listen. I criticize them all the time, but they were the ones who put together the timeline early on, the legit timeline. They did really good work early on in this. If this video screwed up,
but that's the amazing thing to me. That's the amazing thing to me is that your whole stream, you were like totally like accusing me of spinning and doing a terrible job. But anytime the Washington Post, did something wrong. Like you just immediately said, "Oh, but they did really great work. They did really great work." And so I do think you had.
Let me make this clear. You're
your
calling out of that Washington Post video is good work, and I think that is extremely good critique. And I think if it wasn't for if it was just a video on the points from that, I think I would have agreed with you 100%. It's mostly the other stuff I have issue with.
It's about that night in Kenosha. That night in Kenosha. One night in Kenosha. I mean, obviously, it's about the shootings. It starts with like, this is, we're leading up to this, and it ends with it. That's exactly what it's about. So that's kind of what I'm talking about, is you just gave them this ridiculous excuse. It's like, oh, the shootings isn't really what it's about. No, that's absolutely what it's about. Now, yes, they focused on Rosenbaum, like I did. But ultimately, the whole thing is about the shootings, and they left out key details. And I'll stop now and we can talk about that more.
I agree.
What happens in my video.
I agree with you. I agree with you on that. I agree with you about that video. I mean, I guess we could continue talking about it, but my final say is I agree with you that the Washington Post video left out key details. Again, not excusing, but the purpose of that video, and this is their fault. They should have mentioned 100%. There's no denying that. They should have mentioned that Gage Grosskreutz was holding a gun, which they left out. Completely irresponsible. And how no one caught that or no one decided to add that in, especially knowing that they knew and had previously talked about it in other journalistic work, is inexcusable. 100%. So let's continue.
All right, we agree on that. Great.
That night, Rittenhouse and Black were armed with rifles protecting CarSource, a business that had been vandalized the night before.
I mean, I feel like, and maybe we didn't know this then, I don't know when this came out, but the owners of CarSource have said they never asked anyone to do this, and I think that's very relevant. I think you would agree.
I think the fact that, it's worth noting that they denied it, but I mean, all this we see in the testimony, in the trial. So,
right.
But you took huge issue in your critique video with me just saying Kyle was there to protect local businesses. We went, he and Black.
Right. Yes.
Right. So explain. So go ahead. Explain that.
I mean, because that's what he said. I mean, we know, though, what his feelings were. Again, a major problem with some of these things is that Jimmy Dore's segment obviously was current, and he was showing this video from months ago. So there's probably moments where I was not sure what you knew at the time as Jimmy was watching it or talking about it. So again, you probably didn't know, but
it does. No. I mean, that's kind of irrelevant. No, like, what is your issue? So your issue with me just stating the fact. You said it wasn't a fact, actually. You were arguing that I don't know that. You don't know that's why he's down there to protect the businesses, right? Correct?
I mean, I may have said that, yes, and I think we don't 100%. We don't know that's the only reason he went down there. He says it is. He clearly was at...
So what? Yes, sure. Maybe he had all these crazy plans. It's possible, but you took issue with me pointing out that fact. It is a fact he went down there to protect the businesses.
Well, that's what he says, yes. Do you say that, or do you claim
that's why he's... I mean, what? Fine, rewind it. Let's see what I say.
Bust on me, nigga, for real.
I think I just say...
That night, Rittenhouse and Black were armed with rifles protecting CarSource.
Yeah, that's my issue. You gotta put that they claim or they allege or that's what they say they were doing down there.
That's what I mean. They're there with guns, and it's not just Kyle. It's not just what Kyle's saying. I mean, that's what he's hanging out there most of the night. Yes, he ventures off. Big fucking mistake, right? But that's what he's doing. I can't believe you could argue that you're seriously going to argue that he was not armed at CarSource to protect CarSource?
That was one of the reasons he says he was there. And I think he obviously did care about private property and the destruction of it. So sure, I would say you definitely should be mentioning it. But I think just to leave it like that, as if that's the sole reason, I think again, if this...
What are the other reasons that we have to say?
I mean, the fact that he was days earlier videoing people in a CVS saying, oh man, I wish I could had my rifle so I could shoot these people down. These are the same people. These are the same types of people.
Came out way later.
Right.
And for the same reason that, Rosenbaum's, whatever. Let's talk about that at the end.
All right, let's keep going. Cool.
business that had been vandalized the night before. For this, Rittenhouse is currently charged with possessing a dangerous weapon under the age of 18. That night, Rittenhouse also carried a med pack, offering care to injured protesters.
There's a medic right here.
All right, pause it, please.
Yep.
So, all right, go ahead. You took huge issue with that. You're like, I can't believe he fucking. This is what they do.
Right. This is what they do. This is how they agitate. I mean, there's clearly no one wants Kyle Rittenhouse's medical aid. It's clear as day. No one goes to him. There is no eyewitness who saw him treating anybody. There is no video proof of him treating anybody. Tons of video of him walking around going, medic, medic, medic. Tons of video of him running around with his rifle. There's video of him shooting people. Nobody saw or caught on video Kyle Rittenhouse actually providing treatment to a single person. I find that incredible.
Okay, no, that's fine to share, but in your critique, you're upset with me just mentioning this. For just including
because it's his claim. It's not fact. If he was providing people with medical aid,
no, he has seen people. You said like nobody wants help, but he's seen like ushering people aside and they go over to him. I mean, that's shown.
Right, and then
now you're absolutely right. We don't see him treating medical. Okay, but yeah, share that. That's important. Sure, that's worth sharing. But that's not that's not my fault. I mean, I'm like you get upset like so you're saying just because and also I worded that I clearly worded he was offering medical help. If I had said that he provided
let's listen one more
medical
time.
help,
Let's listen one more time.
Then sure.
If you put offering, sure. Let's listen one more time.
A med pack offering care to injured protesters.
Okay. You did say offering.
There's a medic right here.
You're right.
What is it? She got shot in the foot. Shot in the shot? All right, we're going to go over here. I am an EMT. If you are injured, come to me.
We also know that it's not true. He wasn't an EMT.
That's true. That's true. He was not. Likewise, Grosskreutz was not.
Right, but I don't think Grosskreutz ever presented himself as an EMT. Yeah, right.
But let's see. Oh yeah, I just want to say. So in the trial, he testified, and I think someone confirmed it in their testimony. Actually, that woman right there, Joanne something, that he had treated people.
Who, Grosskreutz?
No, Rittenhouse. Now we know Grosskreutz treated people. Yeah, that is on video.
I mean, I Grosskreutz recalls this situation himself in his testimony and with this woman, and he says that he saw her walking over there and then people informed her who Kyle Rittenhouse was with, and he did not, and then she walked out of Car Source and he never saw Kyle Rittenhouse provide her with medical treatment. You should definitely
I think that's okay. I mean,
you should definitely go back and check that out. Yeah. That wasn't available to me when we made this video.
I believe that because obviously if we I think it makes sense, because if he did go on to treat this person, that would be on camera, probably.
Right.
But I don't know. We don't know. But okay. I mean,
let's put it this way.
I'm very curious. What is it that you think people told her that she was not already aware of? I mean, obviously this is a group with guns and like, what did they tell her?
I mean, we don't know, but whatever they told her was enough to make her not want his treatment and to walk out of the Car Source parking lot. I mean, it's possible she didn't know who he was or realize.
But who is he? Who was he that someone would tell her that you want to stay away?
I could play this clip of protesters yelling at him to stop pretending to be a medic after you were just pointing your gun at people, telling them to, threatening them with some sort of action if they didn't get off or get out of a car.
It's key to point that they did not say that he was pointing a gun. They did not say that.
Let's play the clip.
No, they don't.
Let's play it. 1 second. Let me pull it up. I have it handy. 1 second. Okay, cool. Here it is. I actually have it within this video because they subtitled it, which is helpful.
Yes.
I'm gonna remove us temporarily from the picture-in-picture so people could see the subtitles.
Rittenhouse walks away from the car dealership to offer medical help.
He said, "Get off the car."
Wait.
What, yesterday or today?
He upped the gun. He picked up the gun. He points his hands
Rosenbaum.
up. I mean,
Picked up the gun. Now, but if you notice the motion he makes, he does not like he does a low ready position.
I mean,
He doesn't. He said
He's threatening him with
he
the
said,
gun.
"Get off
though.
the car."
and hold and getting the gun ready.
That's not
as if
point.
to-
That's not pointing.
But
the
then he
gun.
also decides we're not going to know
Also-
this because he
yeah.
also does a second motion after. Watch it again. I'll play both again so everyone can see both. You're correct, but he also does another motion after where he does lift his hand up. Okay, we have to find this individual and talk to him, I guess.
Yeah, no, I would have liked. I think everyone would have liked to hear what this guy said in the trial, but he didn't testify. We don't even know. We don't know who he is. He never
Right.
came forward.
Now, when the
Well,
interviewer
yesterday,
goes
today.
back over to him, you'll see he picks his hand up and says he had up the gun, and his hand is up.
That's not.
Well, he
Clear,
says
but-
he says up the gun.
But you know
I don't
what?
know what else.
But you know what? I do. You know, hell, this should be in the documentary. And if there's any one critique you had, there honestly, this is the one critique where I'll say, yeah, like
And
I wish I
also-
could go back and put this in.
And also, I mean,
Um,
you could see the reactions from everybody, completely ignoring him. No one wants anything to do with him, because of who he is. I mean, he's clearly not one of them.
But
He's not
but
with
let
them.
me let me explain why I didn't put it in, because it is hearsay. It's hearsay, and it's the same reason I didn't put in.
No, that's
you know,
not, that's
the
not hearsay. Hearsay is
It
when
is.
hearsay is when a third party attributes words to somebody else. This guy is sharing his personal experience. That's not hearsay. If he said,
Oh, well, okay. Well, hold on. Well, what else wasn't in there? What else didn't I put in? Is Ryan Bouch saying that Joseph Rosenbaum told him and Kyle Rittenhouse that he was going to kill them
okay,
if he caught them alone.
Right.
Either one of them alone.
because that's hearsay.
So, and
right.
for this, it's the exact same thing. It's somebody saying this happened to me, but and because there is so much video, like showing stuff that's actually happening, that's I didn't want to include hearsay.
But both of those examples are not hearsay. Hearsay is not when you provide your own personal experience. Hearsay is when you attribute the words of someone else, and when you are telling somebody the words of somebody else.
That's exactly what this guy's. It is the same thing, Matt. It is the same thing. He says, "You said get off the car," and you
No, 'cause
did
they're
this."
the two
And-
individuals.
And Bouch
They-
says the
they
same thing.
are
He
the-
says Rosenbaum. Huh? Go ahead.
No.
Go ahead. Rosenbaum said the same thing. He said, fucking Rosenbaum. Bouch said the same thing. Bouch said Rosenbaum threatened to kill him and Kyle Rittenhouse if he ever caught them alone.
But that's what you're not understanding here. He's putting okay. This guy is saying he was there, and Kyle Rittenhouse said to him, "That's his personal experience." The other scenario is not that guy's personal experience. He's attributing those words to somebody. He's not saying he experienced it himself. He's saying somebody said this to somebody else and told him. No, am I?
No, he's
not.
not.
following
No,
what
he's
you're
not.
saying?
You are wrong. You are wrong. Bouch is saying Rosenbaum threatened him and Kyle Rittenhouse, who was with him at the time
Okay.
that night.
Okay, let's continue then. I think I'm misunderstanding then. I think you might be right here. But this situation here is not hearsay because this is the party that experienced this.
It's really no different from the Bouch thing, whether you call it hearsay or an unverified claim, But either way, like I said, if there was one thing I agree with you on, it's like this. I would have put this in it, and obviously, this is going in the feature length documentary.
All right, cool.
I mean, so much of the night is so much. I mean, there's so much that's captured, and that's why I want to make a feature, because there's so much to show.
Okay, cool. Let's. I think you're right about the Hearsay is a statement other than one made by the declarant while testifying at the trial or hearing. Okay. You might be right about the other one. But this is not. This is not hearsay.
Or maybe
This
it's
is this guy's
an
experience.
unverified claim. Maybe that's
Right.
a more accurate way to say it. All I'm
Right.
saying is it's the same thing as Bouch in that, yeah.
All right, let's go back to your video. Okay, I don't. Let's. Where were we? We were right here.
If you are injured, come to me.
Later, Rittenhouse is seen with a fire extinguisher running towards another car source lot where protesters are breaking into cars and setting fires.
We've seen at least 4 people with handguns running around here. 3 or 4 subjects trying to light cars on fire.
It is in
I mean,
the
I did an issue with that one because what's the relevance of the police saying we have 4 guys with handguns? I mean, we have a lot more than 4 guys with handguns. We have literal people open carrying rifles. The idea that a couple of guys with handguns are the threat and not the guys also roaming around with rifles.
I'm not saying that that guns in the hands of one people are a threat. You just it's amazing. You're totally projecting that. I'm not saying that. What's the relevance of this police radio where they say a bunch of armed people are starting fires in this lot? Well, because that's what's happening. That is the exact scene that Kyle's entering into. Not only that, but because of it's being lit on fire, appears that's why he's going. He was on the phone with and if I had known this part, the phone, he apparently, we know this from the testimony in the trial. He called, I don't know if it was Nick Smith or somebody, or they called him. I don't remember. Anyway, somehow he got the information that this shit was that fires were being set down here because he picked up a fire extinguisher and ran over in this direction.
All right, let's continue the. I think you explained why you put it in. I think it does lead people, but you also. Because what's the because you're making a video that's explicitly asking an audience and very heavily leaning on one side, and I mean I think it's clear to anyone which is fine. That's totally your prerogative to make that case, and because you wouldn't make this video to claim that Kyle Rittenhouse wasn't acting in self-defense. This is clearly a video showing that he did.
No, that is not true at all. This is the whole goal was to show what led up to the shootings, and this is a huge part of the story. That's why he ended up there, because this shit is going down there. That's why he goes down there with a fire extinguisher.
So it's a good. I mean, okay, let's continue. I don't want to hang up on something so small right here.
Slot that Rittenhouse has his fatal encounter with Rosenbaum. But it was another man, Joshua Zeminski, who had been protesting with Rosenbaum that would fire the first shot. A camera filming cars getting smashed pans, and we see the 6'5" Joshua Zeminski step
All right, this is what I really had a problem with. What
I remember.
What is the relevance of him being 6'5"?
Well, for starters, it could help point him out who he is compared to, his girlfriend and the other figures in the frame. And
I mean, in this frame right here, they look exactly the same.
I will say, I do think that is a detail worth sharing, because this is when Kyle starts running away, right? And so, what makes Kyle run away? Well, it's because he's getting, surrounded by this big dude, his girlfriend, and as we are going to see, and I show Rosenbaum behind him now wearing a mask.
Well, he's not wearing a mask. He's wearing a shirt over his head. But
as a mask, as a mask.
Okay, so you're
that's sketchy. That's sketchy. Okay,
that's
but
you're
sketchy.
You're
because that all of a sudden he's putting on a mask now. And let's talk about the FBI footage later, because that's new.
Okay, but let's focus.
But now we know, and I didn't have this in the video, but Rosenbaum was hiding behind the car, and then he comes back around it after Kyle goes past the car.
Let me ask you this though: why does it matter that he's tall? But you explained it's because he's scary. That makes him tall and scary.
I don't say because he's scary, but I'm helping identify him
I mean, you just said though
And
it shows that
I
this
do
tall
think that's
guy is.
I think it's totally fair to note that.
Joseph Rosenbaum was about 5'3", 5'4". Why is that not relevant? He's a short guy. He must not be showing. If tall means that you are overbearing, and that's why Rittenhouse is surrounded by this tall guy, then Joseph Rosenbaum being short must essentially mean that he can't be that much of a threat. Kyle Rittenhouse got almost 6 inches on the guy. Kyle Rittenhouse about 5'8", 5'9". Joseph Rosenbaum 5'3", 5'4". I mean, why isn't that relevant?
I mean, should I be mentioning that? I
don't think the height set of anyone is relevant, but you decided that the 6'5" guy is relevant.
Yeah, I think it's worth noting that this big, intimidating guy is walking towards Rittenhouse. Now, and since you're like insinuating, like through your whole critique, you're just insinuating that I'm like out to like, deceive people. There's so much I left out that, if someone did want to, paint the story in favor of Kyle and eliciting sympathy for Kyle, Zeminski was flashing a gun at the fucking gas station during that altercation with that Rosenbaum.
Rittenhouse is flashing a gun 24/7 that night. The whole night he's got the gun out. What are you talking about?
Okay, that's not my that you don't think, and so are the other protests. So if someone's like trying to frame stuff that like, in sympathy of, I'm really just trying to share the facts, and I mean.
6'5" has no relevance.
You don't hold on. You don't think that there would be a difference if also you can barely see the guy.
If Kyle Rittenhouse's rifle is sitting on on top of a bookcase, a very tall bookcase, and they were both reaching for the gun, this guy and Kyle Rittenhouse, then yes, him being 6'5" plays a role. But him being 6'5" here has no bearing to anything.
You don't think that's more intimidating? I mean, maybe that's what the
mainstream media usually.
Height is not as significant as the fact that he's being approached by two separate parties from different sides. Somebody just sneaked around a car, and two people are approaching you. I think that's significant. Now, the height of the guy, that is the least significant amount of that, but I still think that's. I thought it was worth sharing. You take issue with that. Fair enough. You're right. I don't mention anybody's height, but I don't think, you mentioned, well, we'll talk about.
I mean, this is something, the reason I'm bringing this up and harping on the 6'5" thing so much is because as someone who's such a critic of mainstream media, this is a typical trope that mainstream media does in usually cases involving a scary black guy who attacked a poor like a poor scared white person. I mean that's what they do. They talk about how tall they were.
Dude,
show them to be like a monster of some sort.
Here you go, man. Here you go. This is not the whole. We know Rosenbaum's relative size already. We know Kyle's relative size already because we've seen them earlier the night and around other people. We have not seen Zeminski up to now. So I'm describing the motherfucker. I don't think that's this deceptive, propaganda shit that you're trying to make it out to be. Now, let me point out, this is incredibly important. The Washington Post article, video, and I had not mentioned this before, they don't even include this shot. The shot of Kyle being approached by these two, by Zeminski and his girlfriend and Rosenbaum coming from behind him with the mask. They don't do that. They don't show that. They just show Kyle's already running away from Rosenbaum. So I think this is crucial to show that, the chirp seems like Kyle is the one being ambushed here. And they did not show this angle in the Washington Post video.
Okay, let's continue going though. I think we both made our points here. Let's move on.
Towards Rittenhouse. Zeminski's girlfriend motions towards Rittenhouse with her arm. Rosenbaum, now with his shirt off and wrapped around his face as a mask, lunges towards Rittenhouse. Rittenhouse runs away. Rosenbaum chases Rittenhouse. Rosenbaum throws a bag with his items from the mental hospital.
This is also what I have a problem with. What is the relevance of saying it's the bag of his items from the mental hospital and really honing in on the fact that it's a mental hospital? I mean, you could have just said a plastic bag with his belongings, a plastic bag of his things. What is the relevance of him it being his mental hospital belongings if you're other than trying to once again focus on the fact that this guy is crazy? I mean, come on.
That's what it had. I mean, that's what the bag had in it. It had something in it.
Said,
that's far better. That's far more. It had stuff in it, and that's exactly what was in it.
Like it was like socks and a toothbrush.
Listen. What were other? Well, yeah. Okay. Other people saying? Other people were saying it's just an empty plastic bag, which is fucking insane. I just described what it is. Now, hey, if you want to harp about, me explaining that it's the bag that he had with his items from the mental hospital. All right, fine. I'm pretty sure even the Post described it as such.
The New York Post?
Washington Post.
Washington Post. Okay. I mean, I did look up for my live stream, I think, to see what was in there, and they do say that like they list all the belongings and things that he took from his earlier stay in the hospital. I don't think they really hone in on the fact that he once again was in a mental hospital. But I mean, it's just irrelevant to lay out that it was his. I mean, these were things. A toothbrush and a pair of socks are in no way unique to a mental hospital stay. Just belongings you bring, whether you're staying at a hotel or a friend's house. They're just belongings that have no bearing on the mental hospital angle. You've already mentioned earlier on that was part of his day.
Yeah, no, I did, and so I'm mentioning it again to specify, to make clear, like it's just a bag from his stay at the mental hospital. I don't. No, it's fine. It's fine. I appreciate the, the criticism. I do.
From that though, it does seem like you understand how it's looked at.
The Kenosha. I mean, you're certainly harping, but I think that's okay, and I encourage people to do that. I do. And this is one of the reasons why in my new project that I'm currently working on is I'm not including any of my commentary. I don't want to narrate a goddamn word. And that's the whole point of it. And that I explained that in the GoFundMe that or actually in the beginning of the opener, what I have of it. And you started your stream saying that, because I'm trying to raise money for this feature film, that, well, one, you're trying to frame me as the grifter, even though I made $7 total on this video.
I don't think
it was
I called you a
demonetized
grifter.
immediately. I knew it would be.
I don't think I called you a grifter.
I didn't gain anything from this. So, but
I actually think, if I recall,
anyway,
I actually say that.
Hold on, let me one thing. I will give you plenty of time to respond.
Yeah.
But you said that, I'm making this documentary now just so I can add my, more of my commentary. Right? No, well, that's the exact opposite. You didn't even bother, looking at the intro of it all, which is the whole point of it. The whole concept around it is showing for the first time the full story without additional commentary.
All right. I mean, the reason I specifically, other than, the reach Jimmy Dore has when he had you on, one of the reasons I also did my commentary of your video is because you're making this documentary, and I felt like there were a number of issues with this shorter thing you made, and I was concerned that your documentary would also come along with those issues. If it doesn't, and if this helps you, then that's great. That's all really I came out to do. And I actually recall saying, I don't think you're a grifter, because if I remember from hearing about you earlier on during the Bernie campaign, you always sort of had these more like contrarian or like not what, these viewpoints. So to me, that's not a grifter. That's your opinion, your ideology. That's who you are. That's not a grifter. I think Jimmy Dore is a grifter, being that he's completely changed his ideological bent here. But let's continue.
Let me make one point. This is an important point. So, you're harping about word choice, and hey, you do media criticism, right?
Yes.
Seems like. No, that's fucking sure. I encourage that. That's fine. Totally fair game. Let me just pose something for everyone. So you didn't take issue with or talk about. You were constantly giving excuses to Washington Post and mainstream media for their coverage. Their word choice and commentary has been so twisted and propagandistic and just spinning shit so much. Now, let me give you just one example, just because it happened at this very scene. So in the WAPO video, they say someone fires a shot, not Zeminski fires a shot, not the guy who was just walking towards Kyle and the guy who was with Rosenbaum. No, they just say someone fires a shot, leaving it open to maybe it being Rittenhouse.
No, I don't think anyone,
or just somebody in the distance, and not somebody that was just approaching Kyle and behind him as he's running away.
I can't speak for, again, though, you have to remember this video you're making, you're making this video in March of 2021. That Washington Post video you're criticizing, is that not from months earlier to November 2020?
It is. They had it's August, September, October, November. November does sound right.
Right.
But
so
this stuff is known. I mean,
there are a lot of details.
Grosskreutz gun.
There are a lot of details.
That was known. That was reported in an NBC video like months before.
That part, yes.
Actually, hold on. The NBC video might have been a few months, and the Washington Post a few months after that.
What's the name of the guy who fires the first gunshots again?
Joshua Zeminski.
Because we could solve this right now.
And even if we don't know the name, we know it's that individual that was approaching Rittenhouse with Rosenbaum. We know that. We knew that. But I am curious, just for the hell of it, did we know what the guy's name was? Was he ID'd? You look up Zeminski. I'll look up the date of the Post video.
It's unclear. It looks like maybe it looks like he was charged in mid-October 2020. So let's find out when that Post video is.
Let's see who has the faster internet connection. Here we go. All right, November 19th.
Okay, so about a month later. All right.
What was later? The
Washington Post video came about a month after Zeminski was.
That's horrendous. That's horrendous. And these details, I mean, what really it did bother me, man. Like you were harping on my stuff, like little details, like me calling a bag from the mental hospital, a bag with the items from his mental hospital. I'm calling a bag with his items from the mental hospital, a bag with his items from the mental hospital. And you were just completely forgiving and like dismissing the huge fuck ups, like incredibly huge, significant shit that the Washington Post omitted.
Well, I don't think, I actually don't think Zeminski's
and lack of commentary in some points.
I don't think Zeminski, they should have obviously put that in the video, but I don't think Zeminski is that crucial to the story, to be quite honest. Because
hey, I agree. IDing him isn't that important, but they didn't even show that video of Zeminski approaching him with his girlfriend when Rittenhouse approaching him with the mask behind him. They just cut to them already running together.
All right, yeah, they should have shown more, right?
Up. And I think that's just incredible, so much bigger than just like calling a bag with items from the mental hospital a bag with items from the mental hospital.
Well, I can't say. Well, obviously, Washington Post has the bigger reach. But you already called it out, so I'm going through your video to see what you got right and what you got wrong. So you did a good job on that Washington Post video. That's without a doubt. I have not said anything to critique your work on that video. That was well done. Let's continue with.
I know. Okay. Thanks.
Rittenhouse turns around, then turns back around and keeps running away. As Rosenbaum continues to chase Rittenhouse, Zeminski lifts his gun into the air and fires.
They shoot.
The muzzle
Yeah,
flash
they didn't show
from
this. They just say like somebody fires a shot.
Right.
Pretty sure. Yeah.
Zeminski's
Yeah, that's just
gunshot
so bad. Okay.
can be seen from this angle. Rosenbaum keeps pursuing Rittenhouse. Rittenhouse runs into a bunch of parked cars, turns around, and fires 4 shots at Rosenbaum. Someone else fires 3 shots.
Okay.
Rosenbaum.
I don't want to show that. We don't need to see that.
Okay. Let me I want to make one note, and that is that you could actually see the gunshots in my video. I don't think you can't see those gunshots in the post video.
Right.
So they're visual forensics, video. It's called a visual, and they don't even, make any effort to show that to you.
Right.
I mean, it's just pathetic. I mean, there's 9 people worked on that, Matt. 9 people. And I'm just one guy, and criticism is always welcome. No one's above criticism. I would, any video I ever make, I fucking wish I could change things to make a little better.
Right.
I always,
What? Did you know
but
at the time?
really, I just think it's.
Did you know
Go
at
ahead.
the time? I gotta also, I gotta watch out for various, because we're also multi-streaming on platforms where you have to watch out what you show for terms of service purposes. What is did you know at the time that Joseph Rosenbaum was the shot that killed him was a shot in his back?
No.
Okay, because
No,
to me that's very relevant, and they even the prosecutor thought that was relevant, and I agree. I mean,
Of course, the prosecutor's going to think that's relevant, but he's not like he was running away. That's what it sounds like, shot in the back. But you, explain that if there's.
I mean,
you want to.
Rosenbaum's falling, and he keeps shooting, and we could argue.
Falling. Hold on, that's a loaded way to say it. He's lunging towards the gun.
No, we actually know that he fell because he was shot in the pelvis. It would be impossible for him to.
No.
I mean,
No,
it's possible he lunged. It's possible. No, it's possible he lunged and then was shot in the pelvis too. But I mean, the dude is going down, and he gets shot in the back, which means Rittenhouse is shooting on a guy who's on the floor.
He's going down. The guy's almost like fucking parallel with the ground. But the question is, it seems like according to all the testimony, the people there with their eyes, like right fucking there, he lunged. I mean, there's no denying he's going down because he's parallel with the ground, but it's because he lunged forward. All the evidence, the testimony shows that.
Right. Okay, but I think the fact that he got shot in the back is relevant to the case for sure.
I don't think it's that relevant. I mean, sure, it's share it, but I
hope you include it in the documentary because I think it's relevant. All right, let's. I got to make sure that we're past a certain point here. We don't need to see. I don't think I had any issues with all the angles being shown. That's all fine. That's all legit. There's just other angles. All right, let's get to him.
I showed every angle available. This is important. I showed
Right.
every angle available.
Right.
The post showed one.
Right. Let's go to.
And I showed it without any fucking commentary.
All right, let me play.
So nobody could get mad at me, take issue with me, calling a bag with items from the mental hospital.
Let me play it here. I gotta just cover this part though.
Rittenhouse frantically talks on the phone as he runs away.
I think it's very relevant to say who he called.
I can't hear you.
Yeah. I think it's very relevant to say who he called, because I mean it surely calls into question. I mean he shoots someone, the person on the floor, and this medic doesn't occur to him to treat the guy, to check the guy at all. He not even call the 911, ambulance. He calls his buddy. He calls his friend.
Yeah. Now you're not critiquing the video. Now we're just talking because.
Well, I think you should mention.
Sure I mentioned that, right?
No, I don't think you do. No, you don't mention who he calls.
I do, right?
You don't mention who he calls.
Let's see. All right, let's see.
And looks at Rosenbaum's body. Then Rittenhouse makes a phone call to his friend Black.
Oh, okay. You do. All right. Good job. No, that's good. That's legit. I was wrong.
Rittenhouse frantically talks on the phone as he runs away.
This dude running did it. Take screenshots. That dude shot him. That nigga just shot that dude. Cranium that boy. He just shot a man. Get that motherfucker.
Get his ass!
As Rittenhouse runs from an angry crowd, Gage Grosskreutz runs up to Rittenhouse and asks him what he's doing.
Hey, what are you doing? You shot somebody?
I want to get police.
Who shot? Who shot?
Stop him!
Hey, stop him!
Stop him! Stop him!
I mean, you don't say anything here, but you do include his comments. I mean, they don't know what he's doing. I mean, they see someone fleeing the scene of a shooting. You can't trust what he's saying, being that the second sentence he says is an outright lie. So we don't know where he's going.
Well, but they don't know that. They don't know that.
I mean, he says that he didn't shoot anybody when
Yeah,
they know he did.
But they don't know. But Gage and everybody pursuing him doesn't know that. They didn't see it.
Sure, but
Or at least Gage didn't.
Sure. Okay.
And
Let's continue.
and he's leading the chase.
One individual hits Rittenhouse in the head. Rittenhouse keeps running, but eventually falls. An unidentified man tries to jump kick Rittenhouse. Rittenhouse fires a shot. Anthony Huber hits Rittenhouse with the skateboard and grabs the rifle. Rittenhouse fires a shot, killing Huber. Gage Grosskreutz pauses and puts his hands up. Rittenhouse.
This part, and you know, I think I can't tell here. So let's discuss this. I mean, this is what bothers me with a lot of people's, and this might not be but it's not clear from this video. This might be how you feel, but it's not clear from this video. Everyone says Rittenhouse had to shoot at Gage Grosskreutz because he had a gun pointed at him. But we see in your video, in your own video even, that the timeline of events, you even say Gage puts his hands up. Why does he put his hands up? Well, we can see because Kyle Rittenhouse points the gun at him, and it's not debatable in my point of view from the video footage that we're looking at right now. We can even rewind it a little bit, that Kyle Rittenhouse points the gun at Gage before.
Can you go frame by frame?
Yeah, sure. I don't know if I could go frame by frame, but I could go slowly here.
So, because let's see.
His hands are down. Look, you can see right there. His gun is down. The only time his gun goes up is when he's putting his hands up. So, and the reason he puts his hands up is because Rittenhouse.
At this point,
I mean, he never points. If the idea is you can carry, just not as long as the gun is pointed down. That's the argument that Rittenhouse and all the other rifle holders are using. Gage is also running around like them with his gun pointed down, and he only raises.
It's pointed up. Actually, it's pointed up.
No. Look.
I mean, are you running with it down? Yeah.
Yes, he's running with it down.
Points it up when he's got his hands up. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, he doesn't point at Rittenhouse. His hands go straight up. There's no pointing at Rittenhouse.
Yeah. Well, not at this point. No.
Pauses and puts.
So Rittenhouse is now pointing his gun at Gage Grosskreutz.
I don't know if that's clear. I mean, he's coming up, and as he gets
Rittenhouse
up,
holds fire.
Looks like it points.
I mean, you say it yourself. He holds fire. He holds fire. You say it yourself. He holds fire. If you're just getting up, you're not holding fire. You're not doing anything with the gun. You say it yourself. He holds fire. That's holding a gun.
He doesn't continue shooting.
Right, but he's still pointing his gun at Gage. That's threatening. That's the equivalent.
I don't know if he is pointing it right at Gage at this moment.
I mean,
he's not looking at Gage.
Is he not? I mean,
I don't know if. Anyway,
there is a point.
He's pointing towards the ground. He's pointing towards the ground there.
I don't know.
Grosskreutz pauses and puts his hands up.
I mean, there's definitely eye contact, and he definitely lifts that gun right there.
Holds fire
as Gage's hands are in the air. My question.
Well, you know what? You know what? Yeah, go ahead.
My question is, how and this is not something you can answer, but this is something that I hear from a lot of people where he had to shoot Gage because he feared for his life. A gun was pointed at him. I mean, what's to stop Gage from shooting at Rittenhouse right here either? I mean, the gun's pointed at him. Gage's Grosskreutz is clearly fearing for his life. You could see it in his whole body.
Well, everybody here is fearing for their lives. Everybody.
Right, but one person's pointing the gun at the other, and the other's not pointing the gun at him.
I like right now. I don't. That's not clear that he's pointed to me. That he's pointing.
So then, would you also give Gage Grosskreutz the benefit of the doubt and say he never pointed his gun at Kyle Rittenhouse based on where his injury is? Because
no, I can't say that. I can say it certainly doesn't look like he's pointing the gun until, as he's lunging towards him, right at the end of his lunge.
Well, he claims he never.
Rittenhouse shoots him.
He claims he never did because
just to be clear, like we're not arguing like my video at this point. We're just talking about Gage.
You mentioned the attacks on Rittenhouse here, which is fine. That he's certainly being attacked. That's undeniable. But you don't mention that his hands are in the. You say he lifts his hands up, but you don't say why.
Yeah.
You don't say why.
Well, I mean, obviously he's surrendering because the guy in front of him, whether he's pointing it at him or not, I don't think that's totally good. Whether he's pointing at it, he's obviously surrendering. He's putting his hands up, right?
I mean,
so I say he puts his hands up. You really take an issue with me? I just say he puts his hands up. What am I doing wrong here?
I mean,
to you,
I just think you should say Kyle points his gun towards Gage Grosskreutz.
All right, I play it full speed. All right. That wasn't clear to me. That was not clear to me at all. Let's see.
He pointed his gun and grabs the rifle. Rittenhouse fires a shot, killing Huber. Gage Grosskreutz pauses and puts his hands up. Rittenhouse holds fire.
I mean, you say he holds
Grosskreutz lunges towards him with the gun in his
look,
right
he's
hand.
Not pointed at him.
Rittenhouse.
Look at that.
And neither is
he's not pointed at him.
Neither is
That's
Gage.
why I didn't say he was pointed at him. If he was pointed at him. Also, if you go ahead.
Neither is Grosskreutz though. You circle his hand.
I don't say he is. I don't say he is.
You say he lunges at him with his gun, right? What is he gonna do? You think he's gonna smack him over the head with the gun?
He does lunge at him with his gun.
Rittenhouse holds fire. Grosskreutz lunges towards him with the gun in his right hand. Rittenhouse shoots Grosskreutz in his right arm.
All right.
So you just there, you like had this cow about me saying that he pointed his gun at. I didn't say that. Right? You have to recognize that you are inclined to, and you know what? I'm disagreeable as fuck too. So you know what I mean? I don't blame you for this. Like if I'm watching something, I'm going to be disagreeable. It's just how I am. Okay. So but you have to admit you're inclined, and it seemed like this to me when you were doing your critique to be biased against me and very forgiving of the mainstream media in the Post.
No, I mean,
and I took issue with it.
Sure, okay, I understand that. And if I had seen that Post or Times or whatever you're claiming, I mean, the only thing that you've pointed out is that Post video, which I've said you did good work on. I don't know I don't know what the New York Times did that you have an issue with. If you could show me, that'd be great.
I can't think of anything off the top of my head. No.
Cool. Okay.
And then we didn't. All we discussed on Door was the Post.
Right. Right. All right. So let's continue here.
Well, we talked about media in general, also. Like, but anyway.
Right.
At normal speed.
We don't need to watch it again. Let me just make sure we are.
Actually, this is something that I didn't mention, but I would like to mention.
Sure. Go ahead.
I didn't mention. So, at this point, the Washington Post, they didn't show this angle. After Rittenhouse shoots Grosskreutz, we hear two shots that comes from amongst the protesters and rioters, right? And the Post cuts away, even though 6 more shots are fired immediately afterwards.
Oh, you're talking about after. Wait, where are you talking?
Rittenhouse, right after Rittenhouse shoots Grosskreutz, almost very soon after, we hear 8 shots ring out from amongst the protesters and rioters, and the post cut away after 2 shots.
Right.
Now, if they,
No, I think
Yeah.
if that's legit. I think, yeah.
Yeah, they didn't like miss 1 shot. They fucking cut out 6 shots that were immediately after the 2 shots. I mean, you have to see that is spinning, in a way to make the protesters look, less dangerous than they were that night. And everybody with a gun is fucking dangerous.
No, I agree with that. Yeah, I mean, sure, absolutely. Let's continue because I don't want to.
Okay.
Because I do want to get to. I know we've gone long, and I appreciate your time, and I hope you find value out of this. Yeah, and I do want to get to a few of your more recent tweets, even if it only just takes 5 or 10 minutes after the video.
Well, I'm happy.
There are 8 shots.
All right, this is exactly what you're talking about, right? Cool.
Yes.
Yep.
Rittenhouse runs towards the police. Rittenhouse appears to surrender with his hands up.
Hey, he just shot them! Hey, dude right here just shot them! Dude right here just shot all them down there! That dude just shot them right there! That dude right here!
All right, does he keep? Yep. All right.
Straight ahead. Someone injured straight ahead. Get out of the road! Get down there! God damn it!
Later, Rittenhouse gets a ride home from Black, and Rittenhouse's mother drives him to the local police station, where Rittenhouse turns
I think I
himself
actually
in.
even stopped it here myself in the original stream because I didn't have any other issue with anything. Okay, so cool.
Oh well, you did take issue. I wasn't sure. I mean, you ranted about the fact that he, understandably,
you do say
he didn't turn himself in Kenosha.
You do say he appears to run toward, which is legit to because that's what he appeared to do.
Yeah,
you didn't
sure.
say he did, because we don't know. I mean, in my estimation, if you are you'd have stuck around if you really wanted to turn yourself in at that moment. But
I wasn't sure in your critique when you said. You were like, you really went off understandably. You're like, he didn't turn himself in Kenosha. He went back home.
And you
but
say that later on.
I say that, and I show that it's the
It's possible I did get upset about that, and then we continued the video, and you do mention it, yes. But I don't think I had any other issue with it from there. And let's talk about. I don't have them on me, but let's pull them up. It'll take just a second. You're going to your Twitter profile.
Oh, if you need a second, can I take 1 second? I'm gonna go pee.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Set it up.
Yeah, sure.
Set it all up.
Sounds perfect. Just give us 1 second here. I'm just gonna quickly, and I'm gonna put it on the screen so everybody could see. All right, just give me 1 second here. He's not back, so it's not like we're missing anything here either.
All right. Oh my God! What a relief! Holy fuck! Okay.
All right, so I think the main one, just to not to take too long with this, the main one I really had an issue with is is this one, because it is. I don't want to show the. I'll grab the screenshot of the actual Facebook comment, but I'm not going to show the picture of his wound because I don't think that's necessary. Okay, cool. So I got them both here. All right. So you tweeted that Gage's friend confirmed Gage was a split second away from killing Rittenhouse. Says when he saw Gage in hospital, Gage said his only regret was not killing the kid and hesitating to pull the gun before emptying the entire mag into him. No mention in the Washington Post report. Here's the comment so everyone can see it from this individual. He says, "I just talked to Gage. This is the day after the shooting. His only regret was not killing the kid and hesitating to pull the gun before emptying the entire mag into him." I mean, the guy's come out since and said that's not true. He was just talking tough on online, and he testified in court under oath that he made it up. It's not true. Gage did not say anything like that. I mean, you can believe
that's what I mean. Yeah, that's his story. I find that very hard to believe.
I mean, but that is the
and
definition
I said
of hearsay.
that, and I
That is
said
the
that too.
definition of
I
hearsay,
made it a point to say that it was denied during the trial and under oath.
Right. I mean, I guess that's the only one to really go to via the Twitter. Most of it was just the Washington Post. Again, that video, which again, I think everything you pointed out there was absolutely legit. Oh, let's talk this now. This involves
also. Let me say, I do want to say though that is definitely like this of all the issues I've pointed out and taken with the Washington Post video. Like that is by far the
right
least.
because they can't if I mean that's hearsay.
I didn't even include that in my video.
Right. And so let's move on to this, and this will be the last thing unless there's something else you want to bring up. You went on Door's show. You did correct Door when he got things wrong, but you also talking about Door, like you made a video a while ago, and it's funny, sure, but I don't know what the point of it other than being funny really is. That video of you spliced all the times that Sam Cedar of the Majority Report mentioned Jimmy Dore's name. It's certainly funny. I mean, splicing that together, but like, is your take that Jimmy Dore shouldn't be taken seriously?
No.
Because there's like a consistent thing I see, and this isn't. I mean, this is the point of your video, is like that. Obviously, like if you critique what Dore said, more than what I don't know you deem to be fine. It's like obsessing, but like I don't get that. Like if you're someone who believes the mainstream media fucks up, like I do, and you are that type of person, and that independent media should be taken seriously, then I mean, like I'm not like tracking how many times you say Washington Post or New York Times. I mean, you should be calling them out all the time. So if Jimmy Dore's fucking up 20 like left and right, which he does more so than ever, I would say.
Well, I know a lot of people feel that way. Yeah,
right.
and obviously he's fallible. I mean, he's owned up to mistakes too.
Right.
I'm a friend of Jimmy's, obviously,
right.
So I'm biased. But sorry, go ahead.
Right. Like the idea that like it's obsessive to critique someone as many times as you want. It seems like a bizarre take because on one hand, you want independent media to be taken seriously. On the other hand, pay no attention to it. Otherwise, you're obsessing over it.
All right. Well, that's not at all what the video was about. I have no critique of, somebody of, criticizing Jimmy Dore. Everyone's should be critiqued. I would not. That was specifically a compilation of Sam taking issue with Jimmy Dore's Force the Vote campaign.
Right. And I mean, they still talk about it. So I think it's still relevant to bring up. I mean, the obsession is not coming from the critique side. The obsession is coming from the side that still brings up Force the Vote literally months after Force the Vote is relevant.
That's the thing is that what I thought was absurd is he kept bringing up Jimmy's name in his critique of Force the Vote. I think the critique, the people upset with Force the Vote had shit totally backwards. And if you want to debate that, we can.
Probably best for another episode, just because it's already
okay.
But let's
but anyway,
stick
so
on the
I
Jimmy
thought it was
as media.
ridiculous that he kept invoking Jimmy Dore's name, and that seemed to be his only issue with Force the Vote, is that Jimmy Dore was supporting it, and so that was the critique. And Brianna of the Bad Faith podcast, in the mashup, in the compilation, she says, just stop talking about Jimmy Dore. We're trying to talk about Force the Vote. And that's the whole theme of the video. It is not about, people shouldn't criticize Jimmy Dore, shouldn't, critique him. It was simply that he continued, comically, to me, obviously, to invoke Jimmy Dore's name in his critique of Force the Vote. It seemed like that was his only issue with Force the Vote.
Right. I mean, I think it's a legit thing, and I don't want to. I'm trying to bring this up while sticking with the media criticism and not bring up Force the Vote, because we can talk about that certainly if you'd like. We could set up another show, another stream on another day. I think it's like the equivalent of, it's obviously not equitable, but in terms of like how important Jimmy Dore is to Force the Vote, it's like, not bringing up why the Black Lives Matter protesters were out in Kenosha that night. Like, it's like you admitted yourself, it's inherently connected, even though it might not always be visible there. Jimmy Dore was the one who created the whole idea behind it, got everyone on board for it in that realm. So if you think he's disingenuous, then that's like, I mean, that's pretty relevant to me.
But how is he disingenuous? I mean, that's another thing. How is he disingenuous? I mean, you got to admit it's kind of silly that if you're debating Force the Vote, and the only issue you ever come up with is that, the guy whose idea it was, he's an asshole, or you don't like him. Like, that's not a good, honest way of arguing the idea of Force the Vote. If you have an issue with Force the Vote, talk about the problem with Force the Vote. And I just thought it was odd and funny that he just harped so much on Jimmy Dore and his belief that he was insincere. And it sounds like you might agree with that. So tell me, I'm curious, like, why do you think, Jimmy Dore was insincere or disingenuous or whatever you said?
Sure. Again, not to go into, I'm trying to keep this in the media criticism thing, because that's what this episode's about.
Well,
this
Jimmy's
about.
media.
Right.
Fair game.
I think there's a difference though in criticizing, in talking in this episode, talking about the media aspect and then going down the Force the Vote rabbit hole. Sure. I think how Jimmy presented it to his followers was disingenuous. His fans really believed that Force the Vote would bring them Medicare for all. I mean, you could see that that's what they believed, because that's how he sold it to them. When he admits later on, I don't know the exact timeline, but he does come out and say it at one point, that the vote is basically just to see who does support Medicare for all, which is, in my opinion, another issue that we can talk about another time. And it's not actually going to get us Medicare for all because the votes just weren't there. Everyone who has any interest in the policy aspect of this and the procedural aspect of this knows that Force the Vote would have been nothing but a show. We can also, again, debate the merits of that. But you got people still to this day yelling, we don't have Medicare for all because we didn't force the vote. And where did they get that from? I mean, we know who they got that from because that's how it was sold to them. That's my issue with it. And as someone who is the media figure he is, that's my issue with it. I wish Jimmy, honestly, and this is not, maybe you know Jimmy, so maybe you can help me out here.
Let me respond. Let me respond. Hold on, before you have another, say something about Jimmy. But first, let me just talk about Force the Vote. So Jimmy in no way ever presented it as if it was a guarantee to get Medicare for all.
But it wasn't even just a
he
guarantee.
presented it as if it was a long shot from day one. The argument was simply that there's always going to be that argument that, oh, it's probably not going to happen. But this is an opportunity. It was the one time where you actually had some leverage. And if you did withhold the vote from Nancy Pelosi, you had leverage. She had to do something in order to get your vote. If you had the courage to withhold it, hence force the vote, allow a vote on Medicare for all. And so it would just be a way for AOC and the squad to live up to their own promises, They said it doesn't, AOC in particular, she said it doesn't matter if I'm a one-term congresswoman. You have to, you just have to fight. And so it's absurd that the excuse for AOC is, oh, but then she would lose, she might get voted out if she actually does what she said she would do. No, that's absurd. If you do what you say you're going to do and risk everything, despite, and risk just being a one-term congresswoman, at this point she'd been in for over a term, but then that's going to encourage your base. Or, I mean, it should be encouraging, but obviously, you guys disagree.
Let's come back to force the vote for another episode. I just don't want to. I brought up the media part because of it fit into the Washington Post critique and everything. And Jimmy being one of the biggest, in my opinion, he is. I mean, almost 1 million subscribers on YouTube. He's got a whole audience.
It's not comparable to.
Oh,
Washington
absolutely
Post,
not. But if we want to take independent media more seriously, I think we should view it in the same. Know what the reach is. Know what the difference in their reach is, but still expect them to do just as the same top shelf job we expect everyone to do.
No, absolutely. You got to criticize it, but this will be the last time I say this because I'm sorry for if I am repeating. But while we should be critiquing independent media, I really got the sense, like it was very clear to me, that you were totally dismissing and forgiving the mainstream media's errors and harping on, smaller errors or smaller critiques of my work. And I just think that's not right. You say
it's not.
If you want people to take independent media more seriously,
sure,
and then you shouldn't be holding them to a higher, like insanely high standard. That a higher standard than the goddamn Washington Post, which has millions of subscribers, a billionaire supporting it, and 9 times more people working on their goddamn video.
I completely agree that there's the reach and how serious it is in terms of how much more of a subscriber base and a readership they have is nowhere equal, of course. I didn't see that Washington Post video, and you did the work. I'm not going to just copy and paste your video on that. In addition, I do critique the mainstream media a lot more than I do, indie media, obviously. This was not one of the topics that I focused on in terms of the mainstream media.
They were much worse. They were terrible, and
but you keep saying that though, and you point out that Washington Post video, and I agree with that Washington Post video. But
it's not just the Post video.
But then what else? Tell me more. Tell me
more.
The
whole goddamn cable networks.
Oh,
they pushed.
I'm talking about journalism reporting.
They said that he went there. They literally called him a murderer from day one. That's insane.
He killed
Whether
people.
you think he's a murderer or not, yes, he shot people. But the fact is that in that video evidence that was available that night of the events, there's clearly a strong argument for self-defense. So to declare him guilty of murder.
I don't think anyone called him guilty. I mean,
did.
If you're talking,
Ted Lieu, Stacey Abrams,
that's not media though. That's
Jen Uger, Anna Kasparian, over and over again.
All right, but let's be fair here though. If you name two public figures who are not in media at all.
One's a congressman, the other's a former.
That's not your argument,
a
though.
potential candidate
We're talking
for
about
president.
we're talking about media, though. If you want to talk about politicians, I mean, we could talk about that, but that's not media, though.
Even worse. Media's even worse.
But you just brought up TYT in that one Washington Post video. TYT fucked it up completely, no doubt about it. I saw the TYT footage. I honestly don't watch TYT that at all, to be quite honest. If I saw that footage, no one sent it to me. If I wish someone did, I would have debunked it early on. I would have called that shit out. The coverage I saw from the Young Turks, inexcusable, horrendous. They were completely off base. And I mean, you could see my coverage from it literally the days following it happened. And I'm, with the limited information I have, 100% more legit than people who covered it months and months and a year later, for sure. But again, if we're going to argue that mainstream media means more than indie media, TYT, they're the biggest of the indie media's outlets, but they're still indie media.
I would not call them indie at all. They are corporate. It's a big corporation. They have millions of subscribers. They were literally promoted by YouTube. There was a long time where you would download the app and it had the image of the Young Turks on the YouTube app or the download, the page. I mean, they promote the Young Turks like crazy. They're huge, and they have, multi-million-dollar deal from like former Clinton donors. I mean, it's just, they're huge. They're huge.
Sure. Okay. But you've mentioned TYT, which I think is not, it's not cable news or.
Give me a chance at some point to just give you like a ton of examples of how terrible the media is.
Okay. Reporting, though. The opinion is shit, too. If a CNN opinion, obviously, we can call it out. You're legit for doing that. They obviously have a reach. But when we're talking the reporting, which, Glenn Greenwald wasn't able to pull, he said earlier today that you wanted Tucker Carlson to say this too. International news outlets got from the U.S. media that Kyle Rittenhouse shot black people, and he could not show one U.S. media report that claimed that. I mean, that's big. I mean, if international media got it wrong, clearly there's some sort of translation issue, because he mentioned Brazilian media, Dutch media. That's a language barrier. I don't know if they just saw Black Lives Matter protests and assumed black people. People in the United States of America, I mean, all the coverage of the Black Lives Matter movement post George Floyd in the summer of 2020 was all about how protest movements were moving into white America where it's never been before because of all the white allies joining in the movement. So anyone who just assumed that this was black people because of the fact that it happened at a Black Lives Matter protest, I mean, honestly, that's on them. I'm sorry. And I'm one to critique the media for misleading headlines. There were no misleading headlines. This was people.
Oh, no, dude.
This was people wanting to decide for themselves, automatically assuming, oh, Black Lives Matter protest, they must be black people. That's not legit.
They did assume that, and you know damn well the media framed it like that.
I don't agree with that at all.
It's constantly BLM protesters. They
were
not protesting then. They were not protesting then. There's not even evidence that Rosenbaum was protesting.
We just went over this, though, that rioting is protesting, and they were there as part. They were violent protesters. They were not peaceful protesters, if that's your claim. But that
all right, you blame regular people. Okay, yeah, it's people's responsibility, but they were misled on that. They were misled. And I want to make a point that, okay, of course, social media is plays a huge role in, spreading misinformation, right? And disinformation. But that needs to be called out too. I mean, these people have huge followings, and that's what Jimmy did. Now, he didn't blame them, and I think you're fair to blame them for being ignorant, right? To so arrogantly say something like Rittenhouse is going to get off, and he because he shot only black people, which someone actually said. So no, you're right. That person is ignorant. But that person that he mentioned was like a resistor. They followed, the resistor accounts, Kamala Harris and all this. So Why were they given? You would think that these people in these establishment networks would understand that black people were not killed by Kyle Rittenhouse.
I mean,
but they weren't. I mean, the media definitely slanted that and framed it to give that impression. But I'll give you a specific example.
Cool.
Of a lie that appeared to come from social media, but actually the source goes back to mainstream media. So Bakari Sellers, he pushed the notion that I'll give you the one example of the Rittenhouse's mom drove him across state lines. That whole narrative that he was driven across state lines, that took a weapon with him across state lines, that his mom did, all of that is complete propaganda pushed by the mainstream media. Would you agree?
I mean, that's 100% wrong. It's misinformation. I don't know if it's being pushed by anyone other than CNN, and you're right to critique them 100%. But the idea that there's this overwhelming across the board failure from mainstream media promoting that, I looked it up. New York Times.
What do you mean? What failure? Hold on. What's the failure? I'm saying that they kept repeating that he crossed state lines with a weapon.
Right. That's a complete
and that
failure.
Was not his. He had no connection to this community. That's what that was for. And that's what they said explicitly too.
That's completely wrong. You're right. You're right. That's not factual. 100%. But I just didn't see this across the when you say when I go after a mainstream media.
I have other examples too besides this cross state lines thing. But go about cross state lines. Are you going to excuse them for that?
No,
narrative?
I just said no. I just said no.
Okay.
And I've seen that, and I've debunked that myself with people who. I mean, even on my stream, I said that's not true. And early on, I never claimed that. For example, even my that post you brought up in my Misinfo newsletter, there was a lie going around literally in the days after the shooting in August of 2020 that Gage Grosskreutz was a felon. Therefore, the fact that he had that firearm was illegal. He did not have a legal firearm. And I debunked the fact that he was a felon because he's not a felon. And people still repeat that to this day. It is true. And at the time, it was unclear if he had a legal firearm or not. But what it turned out to be was
he's been charged with a lot of crimes. To be clear, I don't know if he was not convicted to be a felon. Yeah, no, I understand. I understand.
None of that kept him away from. He had a license. He did have a license. It expired. And he failed to renew it, so he did have. But it wasn't because he was a felon. He just had to renew the license. He could go renew it today, and he could carry the gun.
Okay, I'm not arguing that misinformation doesn't come from social media, but to get back to he crossed state line shit.
That's wrong.
Bakari Sellers just days ago said that. His mom, he drove across state lines. His mama drove him. And just so everyone knows, Rittenhouse's house, his home, was 1 mile from the state line. So this is just a narrative, and he was half an hour from Kenosha. He worked in Kenosha. His friends are in Kenosha. His family's in Kenosha. So you have to understand that this narrative, it was purposely propagated. It was propaganda because in order to frame him as an evil white supremacist, hateful mass murderer, you had to deny he had any connection to Kenosha, because if he does in fact have a connection to Kenosha, and he does, well, then that leaves open the possibility that he had good intentions and he really did just want to protect property. That's why he was there. It opens that possibility, and they had to. They could not accept that because it went against their narrative that he's this crazy, murderous, white supremacist.
Right.
Now, I'm sorry this is really important. So Bakari Sellers, just a couple days ago, he repeated this shit and he said that his mom drove him across state lines. The mom drove him across state lines is been fact checked. That is false.
It is false. Yep.
Black drove him. His mom was busy doing errands and shit. And the Yahoo fact checked that false claim that his mama drove him across state lines. They cited a Facebook post from November 13th and an Instagram post from November 10th. As that's where this new resurgence of this misinformation is coming from. What they did not cite is that the day before each of those posts, on the 9th and the 12th, CNN and MSNBC were propagating that fucking lie. So it was immediate. So the social media misinformation was immediately preceded by mainstream media broadcasting that across the whole goddamn country.
I agree with you on that 100%. It has been completely irresponsible of and I've seen this on CNN and MSNBC, and I don't know what other. I have not seen this again in the New York Times or the Washington, anywhere where there's actual reporters doing work.
No, the Washington Post has fucked up. They made so many errors.
No, they did, but I didn't.
It's hard to believe that it was.
They never
an accident.
They never made that one. That's important to point out, though. If we're gonna critique the media, we need to critique the actual.
Well, I know it's important. It's important to be accurate, but you said that you never seen that. Okay, so you were referring to the
specific. Because that's the most egregious one. I completely agree with you because.
No. There's more egregious ones, way more egregious. So, in fact, Bakari Sellers, he went on to say that Kyle Rittenhouse was the only one to fire a shot that night.
Oh, that's wrong too, right?
He just did that days ago, literally days ago. Now, that's propaganda. That's 100% bullshit propaganda. You know damn well, we all know damn well that he didn't fire the first shot, and in fact, protesters fired more shots. And this guy is saying that he was the only one to fire a shot. That is so fucked up.
I don't know if the point to make is that protesters fired more shots.
No,
it's
just that it's just goes to show that what he framed is just so far from reality.
No, I think
that's
they
far from reality.
They have. It's almost it's because this is some basic stuff that even I back again in the days following all this knew to keep if I didn't have it in front of me, if I could not tell, I would just not. Or I would say, there's a claim or there's alleged. I never made. So the fact that they're doing this now that we know 100%, and we have known for months and months and months and months and months that he was there at his friends and he didn't cross the state border with the gun. I mean, this is unforgivable. It's irresponsible to say the least. And I agree with you.
More than just that fact. It's just the whole narrative that he did not have any connection to this town. You understand?
I don't think I 100% agree that it's false to say he had no connection to this town. But the other side is also
that was the whole purpose of saying that he drove across state lines, because the fact it's fucking 1 mile away. And anyway, he was there every fucking day.
But let's put it this way though. If everyone knows I live in New York City. I live in Queens. If there's something going, I work in, I did work before COVID in Manhattan. If there was a protest breaking out and it got violent, there was rioting breaking out, and I chose to go from my home in Queens to Manhattan, I mean, you can't really claim that, I was right in the middle of it. I was defending my, where I live. It's just not accurate. It's not accurate to say he had no connections to the place. He obviously, it's not like he's like a complete stranger to the place, but he did go out of his way to be there.
Different people feel differently, right? I mean, some people identify as New Yorkers. You attack New York, the towers got burned down. Some property got burned down. That obviously is a massive fucking property. But still,
I saw it happen.
Nonetheless, every New Yorker was fucking offended. I don't think the only people that went down there were the people like the immediate neighborhood.
Right, but when I saw the towers burning in 2001 from my where I was in Queens, I don't tell people like, I was in the towers, or I was in the downtown and the financial district, nor did I go down there. I mean,
I'm not saying, no, not everybody does. I mean, but some people understandably they are compelled to go and protect a community that they have a connection with. And again, I don't know who know. I mean, yeah, okay, he could be lying. Da, 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 da.
No, it's not
But
lying. Listen, I agree with you that to say he has no connection to the place is wrong because it makes it seem like he was just like abruptly like saw it on the news from states away and was like, I'm going down there right now and I'm gonna go out of my
because
way.
there's BLM rioters down there and I want to shoot them. Right.
But I mean, he's not.
They literally say that they don't just stop at state lines. Many of them. They don't just stop at he took a gun across state lines, which is false.
But
they go on to say, and he just started shooting people.
But
that's Morning Joe. That's Joe Scarborough.
But he did.
He just.
But he doesn't live in Kenosha. He could have been home in Antioch, Illinois that night, away from it all.
30 minutes away.
And 30.
Yeah.
Still, I'm 30 minutes away from a lot of things.
It doesn't make it. There are people in Kenosha, who made the obviously wise decision to stay the fuck home.
Right. So I think it is relevant that he decided to go down there because of what he saw, and that's what inspired him. And we have the video again of the CVS video where I don't think it's so off base. I mean, again, there's a difference between like bloodthirsty from hundreds of miles away and just like, yeah, there's this thing going on 30 minutes away and I fucking hate these people. I want to go down there. That's a difference to me. There's a difference of that to me. But I mean, it's an accuracy difference, which matters. But at the end of the day, it's not like he was stuck down there and needed to defend himself. He went looking for trouble and he found it.
Yeah, and I think he wasn't the only one looking for trouble. I mean, if he was in fact looking for trouble, and I think that's totally plausible. But one thing that bothers me is, and I don't say this to defend Rittenhouse. It bothers me when I see like people say something like that, but then they totally dismiss the fact that if he was down there looking for trouble, I mean, isn't everybody involved down there looking for trouble? We saw there's fucking rioting.
Sure.
There's blocks were on fucking fire. A man got, beat to a bloody pulp, and, they're all out after curfew in a parking lot that's getting smashed and lit on fire.
Right. I just want to also point out, and I think you're saying this as well, but a lot of people online point out like, oh, all those protesters and rioters were out there after curfew causing trouble. Rittenhouse had to do what he had to do. I mean, Rittenhouse was also there after curfew, breaking the law, causing trouble. I mean,
curfew.
That's what people use to defend Kyle Rittenhouse. That he had to do what he had to do because people were breaking the law of being out after curfew.
Because people were breaking the law. Nobody says Rittenhouse was there to stop people from violating curfew.
That's the whole right wing. They're
saying curfew.
They're saying that they were wrong to be out there after curfew without acknowledging that Rittenhouse was there. Like they treat Rittenhouse like he was ordained as law enforcement and was an official who had every right to do what he did. I don't know if that's your. I don't think that's what. No, I don't think that's your claim.
I don't think that. Of course, I don't think that. And some people do think that he, that he went down there as a vigilante, and that's a good thing. No, people, I know, but honestly, I see the same thing from the other side. So people who hate Rittenhouse, they will look at Grosskreutz and Rosenbaum and them all and Huber and say, Rittenhouse is the vigilante. These guys are the heroes. But anybody
I think Huber's the most
down to try to apprehend somebody like a cop. They were trying to take justice into their own hands,
like Rittenhouse did.
Yes.
Right?
So there's just a lot of hypocrisy going down, and it is irritating with so many people just being complete hypocrites and not looking, because it just shows that they're just playing sides on this. And
all right.
and when you have people playing sides so extremely that you have, cartoonish level heroes and villains, that's what leads to more violence and hatred, right? And that's why I take such issue with this, and I try to, open people's minds about this. I don't want to do it just like, oh, you're being a fucking idiot. I really just want people to recognize that, because I don't want this kind of shit to happen again. Because that's what happens when people have these kind of polarizing views.
I want to end it here, but I do have to say, like, you have to see how we could debate Rosenbaum. I think he obviously did also provide the his own. He also contributed to the agitation that led to that first encounter, for sure.
Contributed? That first encounter.
Yeah. But
I mean, I think it's clear he started it. The dumpster fire started the whole thing.
But I mean, Huber and Grosskreutz were literally going after. And this is what the very people who defend Kyle Rittenhouse, this is who they usually hold up as heroes. They saw an armed individual fleeing the scene of a shooting. People were telling them that he was the shooter, and they thought he was trying to run away. So they wanted to apprehend him.
They took justice into their own hands. They played vigilante.
And that's what the right pushes. That's the hero.
That's not what the right, but that's objective. I mean, are you disagreeing with that?
The good guy with the gun stopping the bad guy with the gun. They saw that Rittenhouse shot and killed someone. He was running away, fleeing the scene. They wanted to stop him. They wanted to apprehend him. That is literally what the Rittenhouse defenders portray as the heroes in these things. Like, if there's a mass shooter, they always say, man, if someone had a gun, they would go over and stop this mass shooter. They saw Kyle Rittenhouse as a shooter who was fleeing, and they did what they thought was the right thing to do: stop the guy. Huber, to me, is completely like he's the saddest case, because you can claim that Grosskreutz shouldn't have had the gun, and I think him bringing the gun down there was obviously a bad move, because I don't think any gun should have been down there. But Huber literally saw someone fleeing on the floor. He saw Rittenhouse try to shoot someone else. And his first thought was to just try to hit Rittenhouse with the skateboard and disarm him. I think that's extremely sad what happened to him. I don't know how anyone else could spin that one in any other way. He did not cause any agitation. He just did what he thought was the right thing to do, and what the Rittenhouse defenders claim is the heroic thing for someone to do when they see someone who's a shooter.
For defending himself, right, and for going there to protect property and put out fires.
Let's wrap it here. We've gone 3 hours. I didn't think we'd go 3 hours, but I think it was a good conversation.
And I get people seeing Anthony Huber as a hero or whatever. I mean, I get people seeing any of these characters as a hero through their, points of view. But my issue is just, it's sad to see people can only see one side of it, right? I mean, would you agree? You can understand how somebody, now I think it's not good. I don't think we should encourage people going out in the streets with guns. I don't want to see that. But if people are happy that, the protesters took justice into their own hands, I mean, I'm curious. Like, could you see how a right winger, especially a fucking gun enthusiast, could see Rittenhouse as a hero for going down there to protect property, and then he used his Second Amendment right to defend himself?
I mean,
now I think. Do you see? Could you?
I don't view property as more important than the life of individuals. So that's. Well,
but I don't think you do have to view property as more valuable than the life of individuals to like that about Rittenhouse, to appreciate his going down there to protect property.
I mean,
I'm not saying you do or I do, okay, but you can see how someone can would be rational in thinking that way.
I mean, I don't. You would just stay away. You would just stay away from the situation, especially if you
Well,
have,
but
especially if it's not
but
your business, your livelihood. I mean, even then, I don't think it's more important than the life of someone. That's what insurance
well,
is
no
for.
one's saying it's
But,
more important than life.
I mean, that's what
but
Rittenhouse said
you're
when he went down there with
hold
the-
on. How
with
did
the
you start
rifle.
that? You said you don't think they should be doing that, right?
Who should
You don't
be doing
think they
what?
should go down and protect the property, right?
Oh, absolutely
Right?
not. No.
Yeah. Okay.
Just stay away.
Okay.
Let's
okay.
stay away.
Okay. But in the tragedy of this whole thing is yeah. I mean, it's so clear that nobody should. If so many people just didn't do something or just weren't there, right? If any of these motherfuckers weren't there, this wouldn't have happened. And
I mean, if we really want to go all the way back, if law enforcement didn't shoot a black man in the back 4 times, we would have never had this. This has never been there. 7 times. Thank you. Even more. I'm sorry. I was thinking of how many times Rittenhouse shot. Yes, 7 times. Right. 7 times for. I mean, we could go all the way back there, and the right will continue to shit on Blake for his history. And you could again, we don't need to talk about who's a good person all around. Nobody's a saint here. But the fact of the matter is, he was shot in the back. I mean, that should be, from what we understand, to be like. Someone's fleeing. You're not in danger if someone is back turned running from you. You should not shoot someone in the back. That should be crystal clear.
Well, he was not running.
He was going to his car.
Provide context, huh?
He was going to his car.
It wasn't his car. It was the woman's car who called the police.
But she wasn't there.
On him. Yes, she was.
She was not in the front seat where he was going.
Say again?
She was not where he was going.
The woman who called the police was at the house Jacob Blake was at, and she called the police. Remember, it was his kid was having a birthday. Now, what she said on the 911 call, and this did not come out until later, she said he's trying to take the car. He's not giving my keys back, and he's going to go crash it. He's crashed my vehicles before. He's going to go crash it. And on top of that, she said, Jacob Blake is here. And that was, now she didn't say the second part, but the police understood. He was violating a restraining order because he did have a felony sexual assault charge on this woman that called the police. So there's, now, my God. Him getting shot in the back 7 times, that's still fucking tragic as hell. It should not have ended that way. But that's just, I do, you know me enough by now that I think context is important. I know you do too, right?
Right.
And so I just wanted to mention that because I think we could talk about the Blake thing for a while. And I have only learned the Blake case really in depth this year, not last year when it occurred. And I really feel like, well, just take those facts that I just said. Everyone knows the fact that he was shot 7 times in the back, but if you take that without the context of that 911 call, and also the context that he was tased 3 times. First 2 times tased, he pulled the prongs out. Third time it was like directly on him. They were wrestling with him. He got up and he had a knife when he got. That's why they got off him. He had a knife. And they're yelling, "Drop the knife! Drop the knife! Drop the knife!" And he's going to the car that, the woman called, said he was essentially stealing. He wasn't giving the keys back. Anyway, so this is all details that definitely paints a different picture because it's a horrible situation, but would you agree it's a much more complicated picture than we were all given when it happened.
Well,
right?
I mean, there's certainly more to it that comes out. That's for sure. But I don't see how. Honestly, I really don't see how that excuses how this went down. I mean.
Well, it explains it much better, right? I mean, because there's a big difference from trying to tase somebody 2 or 3 times, wrestling with him, then he pulls out a knife and, and you're telling him to drop the knife, and he's going to a car that's not his, and it's got kids in it. And you just heard on the call that he's crashed numerous of her vehicles in the past, and she wants, she doesn't want him leaving in the car, and it's got kids in it. So you can understand how this is it's a very different situation than somebody just casually walking to their car after they had supposedly broken up a fight, and that was the narrative.
Well, I don't.
And the reason I think this is relevant. So go ahead.
I saw the video right away, and the video came out fairly quickly, and it was not. He was not. Nothing that I saw, including the video again, portrayed it as him casually walking into his car. Obviously, there was some
that's what it
confrontation.
looks like. You don't think that's what it looks like?
No,
he's just fucking. What?
No, he's
really?
not casual.
And the police just grabs him.
I didn't think that's
yells
what it
at him
looked
and
like.
grabs him and then shoots him 7 times in the back.
I don't recall thinking that's what it looked like. I mean, I guess it would be impossible for me to go back and remember exactly what I thought in August 23rd, 2020. But I mean, the situation looked. It didn't look like it was like, he was just just standing there and the police shot him 7 times, but it was
it
clear.
It almost looks like that actually from the viral video.
I don't remember seeing it like
no,
that.
And that's horrible, and that's why people got so mad. I mean, not that you can get mad based on what the fuck happened alone, but it looks so fucking bad because you don't see anything that preceded it, and you don't know the backstory. And so you have to, even though, yes, you can say the cops, they should have been able to apprehend him somehow. And there was more than one cop. So that's fair criticism. But anyway, you see how that's very different from what actually went down is very different from what it appeared to be. And it did appear to be that, some guy was just going into his car and they just shot him 7 times.
Sure. I mean, I don't recall it being like that. But if that's how it was, then it obviously.
Well, what do you recall? I'm curious.
I mean, I told you, I recalled that all these details were out, that there was a domestic incident with a.
No, that was not. Well, yeah, they did say that's a very general term,
Well,
but yeah.
I mean, we know what it. But I mean, it's a general term on purpose to describe a lot of things because we don't know the details. But it's pretty clear that there is.
Well, yeah, but they said that there was he was breaking up a fight. That does not appear to be true. Like, not one person has said that they witnessed that fight and explained how that went down. Now, turns out it's a verbal argument, supposedly, right? But I mean, that's completely different.
But the point of these things are, I think it's important to obviously.
No
have
one's described this alleged, verbal. And also, that's obviously not the key part. That obviously didn't cause any. And that's not what made police go there in the first place. You know what I mean?
The key part is that we know these sorts of domestic incidents happen with people all the time. And the guy who gets shot 7 times in the back, instead of the police coming and de-escalating the situation, is a black guy. We to believe that there's been no issue where a white guy. I mean, where's the equivalent situation for someone who isn't black with the police? It doesn't normally happen that way, to be quite fair, and that's frank, and that's why Black Lives Matter had a problem with that situation.
I would actually, I think it's happened. I mean, there's even a case in Kenosha where somebody had a bucket. Some guy had a bucket. He didn't even have a knife, and he was a white guy, and police fucking shot and killed him.
I'd have to look at that one. But I think this is a good. Let's wrap it here, unless there's something that's really important and relevant to the overall Rittenhouse thing, because we did.
Thanks for going on so long. It's been fun talking. I'm a fucking, video editor, and I spend way too much time alone in the video. So it really has been a pleasure. Thanks so much for talking with me. I will attempt to connect our Jacob Blake, discussion to it all. Try to wrap it around. But my concern with all of this, my interest in covering the story at all, is just seeing people so hateful online with each other. And a lot of it is based on misinformation. For example, one would have to agree that, a black man getting shot 7 times in the back, casually walking to his car, which is what it appeared to be, that's cause for rioting. You can understand how people would fucking riot over that. That's fucking bullshit. But if you learn some of how it actually happened and you didn't jump to the conclusions, then things might have been less violent.
I think you're
sure you get.
I think you're really misunderstanding what this is all about. I mean,
Well, let me try and connect it to the.
I mean, the idea that this guy got shot that many times in the back again. I mean, the situation was not handled properly, and denying that the fact that he was a black man.
What do you mean
denying the fact that he being a black man didn't contribute to that. Excuse me. I think is disingenuous.
I'm not denying. When did I deny that? Also, I mean, I don't know if it. I mean, there's a lot of other factors that seem like they were incredibly significant that everyone's ignoring. Not everyone, but a lot of people. But I didn't deny anything.
All right, let's end it here. I'm getting, it's almost 1 a.m. now.
Okay. I would love to wrap this up on like kind of a nice, like clean note. And would you?
I don't think we're gonna agree on any of this, to be quite frank. I mean, we could agree on that Washington Post video.
Where are we disagreeing? Where are we disagreeing? I guess, correct me if I'm wrong, but I guess we just disagree on. You think that there would have been just as much rioting and outrage if people were informed of those other factors that led up to the Blake shooting. That the fact he was tased multiple times. They tried to tase him multiple times. He had a knife. He would not drop the knife. And police were not there just randomly trying to hassle him because he was black, but because they received this alarming call.
I'm not saying I never said they only hassled him because he was black. I'm saying they handled it in the way they did.
That's
because
what people had that impression at first.
No,
because we didn't know the other stuff.
Dude, the idea is the basic fact is that police shot a black man in the back 7 times. It doesn't matter, in terms of the if all these details were up front, you still would have seen this outrage because the police clearly handle these situations differently dependent on your race. You could look at George Floyd, which sparked the entire thing. All we knew at first was a bunch of police officers held him down, and then one of them put his knee on the back of his neck and choked him out, and he died. This is what sparked the entire movement that summer. Later on, it would have come out that he possibly had a fake.
This is a much larger movement, but yeah, okay.
It's the same basis. This all was part of the 2020 Black Lives Matter movement. All these police shootings.
Sure, no, George Floyd is huge. Yeah, no, I'm just saying, like, obviously it didn't start with
it. Later came out, though, that he possibly had a fake $20 bill. Then it later came out that he was on fentanyl.
Look, I'm not.
And then
there's no way in hell I'm going to try to justify anything. Like, especially the George Floyd. I mean, I don't. What is?
But then it later came out that he later came out that in his past 10 years down the line or something, he was involved in like an armed robbery at this woman's home or something like that. All this stuff came out.
Totally irrelevant, yeah.
All this stuff came out. Well, the him being on fentanyl and him not going down and listening to the police, and that was all happening at the moment. And none of that, if that all came out at the very beginning, none of that would have changed anything either. The fact of the matter is, police executed a black man on the street. Blake luckily didn't die. He's paralyzed from the waist down. But
police did provide medical care to him immediately afterwards, and that's probably what saved his life. Because I know you criticize Rittenhouse for not doing well. The police in this case, they did. I'm sure, they patched him up, did what they could, and then sent him on a helicopter to the hospital.
I think we should wrap it up before we go on a whole nother. Let's.
I mean, obviously, okay. I just want to make clear that my point is, in each of these cases, like, it's so quick and easy to get so fucking angry, and rush to violence, and I just wish my hope is that maybe we can learn from this, like, that anyway, I'm struggling. It's been 3 hours,
Yeah,
but I
let's. I think it's best
I guess
if we want to
I just
continue, we should. I really think we should just
I
end
just
it.
hope we would not rush to just the rush to violence over stuff is. I just want it to stop. And this is naive as fuck. I know. Like, how can we get it to stop? Do you know what's happening now? Like, hopefully there's not violence because of the verdict. Do you know?
I haven't seen anything.
Great.
I'm
good.
sure there has been protests around the country, and obviously there's been arrests, but I haven't seen anything. I mean, if you're worried about this, the real threat, and we should end it on this, please. The real threat, I think you could agree, and we could have another conversation. I'm happy to talk with you again later, another date. We go another full 3 hours too. The real threat, I think you're focusing on the wrong one. You think that protest should wait to get all the facts. I mean, the real threat is without a doubt, and you can see it from the football spiking online right now.
Misinformation is the threat, not protesters.
I think the threat right now, the most dangerous threat following this case, is that you are clearly going to see right-wingers, right-wing activists like the Proud Boys and militia groups. They're going to think this gives them carte blanche, and they're going to go out now armed and try to, whether you think Rittenhouse did it on purpose or not, you know my opinion. I think we all know yours.
What is your opinion?
My opinion is that Rittenhouse purposely went to agitate, without a doubt. I mean, that's my opinion. I think the facts bear that out, but that's just my opinion too. But you were going to, without a doubt, unquestionably, I hope to everybody, see people like the Proud Boys, people like militia groups, obvious right-wing on-the-ground forces try to purposely deploy the Rittenhouse play, which is medic, and agitate people, bother people, purposely to gun people down.
I cannot agree that yelling medic is agitating people. Now, maybe being there,
no, that gives him the plausible
with
deniability.
The gun is obviously dangerous.
The gun is the agitation. The medic bullshit.
So then why are you saying that asking people for if they want a medic is agitating?
No, the medic gives him the medic thing does play a part in some of those videos. You can see they just, why are you here? Which you don't see the other militia guys he's with doing that. I mean, they are at the car source. This kid's going around, getting in people's faces, going medic. I mean, it's obviously going to agitate people. Maybe you could make the argument that he's young and stupid and didn't realize.
He did treat a couple people.
We just agreed earlier that there's no proof of that, though.
According to testimony, he's not on video.
I haven't seen any testimony of that either. The only thing I've seen. The video guy who got him to say this basically said that he told him this, and then Gage Grosskreutz said he saw the limping woman go over to car source and be immediately warned, and then she walked away.
He's not talking about that sounds right to me. That in that instance.
All right, but let's not go back. Okay, let's not go back. To me, the biggest worry in the aftermath of this case is what the far right is going to do.
Yeah.
And I think you could agree there. But
oh my God, yes, no, obviously,
right,
no,
right.
I totally understand that.
Right.
Yes.
All right, so let's we agreed on something. Let's leave it.
All right.
We agreed on something. Let's leave it. Matt,
okay.
I really appreciate this. Everyone knows my opinion on people who engage. Even if you were a full-blown right-wing Trump supporter, came on this show. No, but if you
would talk to one though.
I have. I had
good.
The Kent State Gun Girl's been on my show before. I've had various different right-wing people on this show before. Let me leave this with you, actually. Let's end it right here, because this is a request. Jimmy Dore is known for not engaging. After having a conversation with me, I think you can agree that I'm a very fair, straight shooter. I have strong opinions. We got, obviously, loud and heated, both of us at points, but nothing disrespectful, I don't think. No. You should let Jimmy Dore know that I would love to speak with him about literally anything, because I have a lot of critiques, and I would speak with him in the same way I spoke with you, very fairly, obviously very opinionated, but I would not like pull any bullshit that whatever he thinks some people are going to pull if he dares to engage with them.
Okay, well, yeah, I'll pass this on. Are you putting this stream up like unedited? And
It'll
I'll just
be
time.
when I end this stream. It should be up right away. YouTube might do some processing before they put it up, but I will not be pressing any private button. I will not be pressing any unlisted button. I will be leaving it, and it will be up immediately after.
All right. I will do as you request, and I'll pass it over to Jimmy.
Sounds great. Thanks for having this discussion with me, Matt. Really appreciate it. Have a great night.
Yes, thank you. You have a great night. Thanks, everyone, for bearing with me and the stuttering. I'm almost worse than Joe Biden. I know. I'm a fucking editor. I'm not a professional speaker like Matt here.
No, I mean, I thought it went well all around, and I don't think that's like, that. Don't worry about that.
Cool.
All right. Take care. Have a great night.
You too. Bye.
Bye. All right, folks. Let's leave it here. I hope you all appreciated this. You guys all know how I roll with this stuff. I really do think that, obviously I would say disagree with the Kent State gun girl on a lot of things, but I think it's legit that she engaged with me that time that she came on the show. I think if you can't even do that, then what are you doing? Like, if you can't even discuss with someone and defend your position, then I think you're just you're the griftiest of the grifters. So, like I said for Michael Tracy, like I said for the Convo Couch people, same with Matt right here, Orf. I appreciate the discussion and the time taken, and I think that's the first step of anything, really. Obviously you can see that I thought he was off base and wrong in a lot of it, but we have to have this discussion to even get that out there, right? Still don't have someone's asking, still not monetized on YouTube. I could reapply literally today, November 20th. Now that it's Saturday, November 20th, I could reapply. But I have to reapply first, and that could take up to a month for them to approve, if they do approve. Also, right now, though, patreon.com/MattBinder. I hope some of you can support this show. This is what I do. If you're just tuning in for the first time, I know there's a larger audience than usual. This is my deal. This is what I do. When I'm not debating someone, what I do is I cover things in the right-wing world. I cover misinformation. I cover conspiracy theories. I debunk both mainstream and independent media when they're wrong, as you can see. This is my deal, and I want to do more debates. I've been on a roll so far, and I don't even think I've done enough. We got to do more. If you're not following me on YouTube, youtube.com/MattBinder. If you're not following me on Twitch, twitch.tv/MattBinder. You can, if you're an Amazon Prime subscriber already, and you haven't give someone the freebie they give you, the freebie subscription they give you, which is basically the equivalent of Jeff Bezos giving you free money to give to me or your other favorite streamers on Twitch, and you'd like to give it to me, please do that. That costs you nothing extra. But if you would like to become a patron, that's the best thing you can do. Patreon.com/MattBinder. It helps me grow this show. It helps me continue to spend more time doing this. I work a full-time job. I have 2 kids. I'm a parent. And I still fit in these long-ass streams I do at the very least twice a week. Every Thursday, I do a long-form interview. And I do many segments in that Thursday episode, and then I started doing these Tuesday episodes. And this week, being that I did this special last minute due to the Rittenhouse trial with Matt here on a Friday, this is my 3rd stream this week. The other ones went just as long, so this is almost about 10 plus full hours in a row I've been streaming this week so far. Well, not in a row because I didn't do 10 hours straight. But as you can see, I'm tired. It's almost 1 a.m. Folks, thank you so much for tuning in. See you guys all next time. I don't. Should I put this up as the podcast version too? I don't know. Maybe I will. Doomedcast.com for the podcast version of the show. I still have to put up yesterday's actual Thursday show with my guest from that episode. It'll all go up. You'll all consume. This is gonna go straight up on the YouTube as a replay. You can watch this there and on Twitch. All right. See you guys all next time. Have a great night. Whoops.